A man's internal voice declares his reality. He is a reincarnated person. This is a fantasy world of swords and magic, where a hooded figure lunges with a dagger. To survive in such a world, he made a firm decision. In response to the attack, he unleashes a torrent of ice magic, freezing the assailant solid. A young woman watches in stunned silence. He admits to himself that while he doesn't fully understand the situation, he will never allow this to happen. He turns away, his face contorted with frustration. He shouts that he wasn't bullying the girl, lamenting that his one desire, to live an inconspicuous life, has now been shattered. His frustration stems from his knowledge of this world's true nature. It is the setting of Koreana Fantasy, a popular romance action RPG. He recalls the game's premise, a school life setting where the player's choices dictate the story, allowing them to enjoy battles against monsters or pursue romance with various heroines, leading to multiple endings. He even remembers specific scenarios, like a dialogue choice with a girl named Shiria and an arrogant line spoken by his own character, Alba. Within that game, there was a character who would inevitably stand in the main hero's way regardless of the story path, Alba Iresia. Born elite in the Duke's family, he was an arrogant, short-tempered, debauched womanizer. Despite these flaws, he was a powerful figure and the strongest villain destined to become the protagonist's enemy. But that delinquent son of the Duke's house was no longer living such a life. He now resided deep in the mountains, greeting the pleasant morning sun outside a rustic cabin. His days passed in quiet toil. He worked the land with a hoe, sweat beading on his brow as he reflected that 3 years had already passed since he was reincarnated as Alba. He recalled the moment of his awakening. He had found himself in the opulent Iresia ducal mansion, bewildered by the unfamiliar scenery and the strange face staring back from the mirror. Then, recognition sparked as his memories connected to a certain game he once knew. He remembered the role of the character he had become. In the game's narrative, Alba was a villain who would menacingly seize the saint, declaring she was his property and that he would take good care of her. At times, he was a rival who would steal the heroine away. At others, he was simply the villain. This was the destiny he was trying to escape. He recalled the future that was supposed to be his, a path of evil, becoming the Academy's destroyer, a malevolent figure stained by wickedness. He remembered the rage, the declaration that he would destroy everyone and the Academy itself. No matter the path he took in a game story, his role was always that of the villain. Whether as a winged demon bent on destruction, a tyrannical duke declaring his dominion, or a warrior claiming a sacred treasure, his end was the same. These weren't just abstract possibilities. They were memories from his previous life. He recalled playing the game, recognizing the character of Alba. Even without having played every route to completion, he remembered this persistent, ultimate villain all too well. And then, the horrifying realization struck him. He had been reincarnated. He was now Alba. As the pieces fell into place within his confused mind, a single, terrible answer emerged. This was bad. A single, unavoidable answer surfaced in his panicked mind. As the villain, his fate was sealed. Alba would, without fail, die. It was an inescapable part of the game's design. No matter the story progression, whether in a battle over a heroine or to thwart his other evil deeds, the hero would defeat him. The destruction flag for the character Alba could not be avoided. Faced with this predetermined doom, a surge of defiance coursed through him. He slammed his fist down, shouting that it was absurd. He refused to accept being reincarnated just to wait for his own death. He clenched his jaw, a new resolve hardening in his eyes. If that was truly his destiny, then he would forge a different path. Then he would run from it. He declared that he would not simply lie down and die. After gathering and selling his family's valuables, he fled his home under the cover of night, leaving his former life behind. His new goal was simple: to live. 3 years passed. He changed his hair color and style, bought a small cabin in the mountains, and began a new existence. Though less convenient than his life before reincarnation, he found peace in a quiet life of farming and reading. He was at last truly living. He greets the young woman, Shiria, who emerges from the cabin with a flustered apology for oversleeping. Though his morning starts peacefully, a thought surfaces. The goddess of fate in this world is not so kind. The woman is Shiria Margaret. She approaches, holding out a letter for him. As she hands it over, he recognizes her as one of the romanceable heroines from the game. He jokes that if the letter is a bill, she should just eat it. In response, Shiria puffs her cheeks slightly, reminding him with a pout that she is not a goat. He lets out a small laugh, giving her a playful wink. Continuing the light-hearted moment, he apologizes gently and pats her on the head, causing her to become visibly flustered. But as she closes her eyes, enjoying the gesture, his own expression hardens. He knows, with absolute certainty, that he must not get involved with her. His reasoning is simple and dire. She is the one person who will trigger the flag leading to his ultimate ruin. This is because Shiria is no ordinary girl. She is the saint who serves the goddess of a major world religion, a famous and rare individual blessed with healing powers and the ability to foresee disasters. The question of how he became involved with such a person leads back to an event that occurred 6 months ago. Back then, while tending to his garden, he felt a sense of relief. Despite being in a game world, the familiar vegetables he could grow, like the potatoes in his hand, provided a small comfort. While shopping for supplies, however, he became aware of the local gossip. Some villagers wondered if the ducal house of Iresia had sent out a search party for him, though others claimed he was considered dead. The thought of his family home caused him a pang of worry. 6 months earlier, he was living a simple life in a remote village. After a morning of tending to the fields, he stretched his back, a large basket filled with freshly harvested radishes beside him. His moment of peace was shattered by a distant sound. He paused, wondering if it was a scream. As birds scattered into the sky, he looked up, trying to pinpoint the source of the disturbance. In a forest clearing, chaos erupts around an overturned carriage. A guard cries out for the saint to escape just before he is cut down by a hooded figure. The saint, Shiria, watches in horror as the fallen man's weapon clatters to the ground. A group of similarly clad assailants, blades drawn, advances on her. Frozen by the violence, Shiria can only whisper how terrible it is. From a wider view, the attackers are seen methodically closing the distance, their intent clear. In response to her fear, one of the assailants lunges, raising a curved blade high to deliver a final blow. Shiria cries out, bracing for the strike. Before the blade can connect, a figure plummets from the sky, slamming into the ground with explosive force. The impact sends a blinding shockwave through the clearing, scattering the attackers. The newcomer, Alba, casually remarks that he doesn't quite understand the situation. He lands with confidence, running a hand through his hair with an annoyed expression. He glares at the stunned assailants and tells them not to make a girl cry. His sudden appearance startles the attackers, one of whom seems to recognize him with a gasp. Behind him, Shiria looks at her unexpected savior, her expression a mixture of confusion and awe. Her gaze triggers a jarring memory for Alba. He flashes back to a scene from the game he was reincarnated from, where his villainous former self declared that the heroine, Shiria, was his property and that he would enjoy cherishing her. The realization hits him hard. Clutching his head, Alba understands that this girl is a key figure connected to his destruction flag. He laments that he had specifically hidden away deep in the mountains to avoid this exact kind of encounter. As the attackers regroup, a mysterious woman watches from a treetop, musing that the goddess of fate won't let Alba escape. Below, Shiria, seeing the renewed threat, begs Alba to run. The woman in the tree smirks, considering his intervention a grateful nuisance. Taking her plea seriously, Alba grabs Shiria's hand, and the two of them break into a desperate sprint, fleeing deeper into the woods. He turns to face their pursuers, unleashing a crackling blade of energy from his hand. But even as the attack flies, a part of him knows this is far from over. The single blade erupts into a storm of sharp projectiles, forming a deadly barrier. He grits his teeth, realizing that since he has now gotten involved, he has no choice but to see this through. In an instant, the assassins are brought down. Shiria stares, stunned by the momentary flash of blue light that felled their attackers. Alba clenches his fist. He had secluded himself in the mountains for this very reason, to train daily, to understand and master the magic inherent to this world. His resolve hardens into a fierce glare. He declares aloud that no matter what kind of ruinous fate may try to befall him, he will resist it with every fiber of his being. He then turns his attention to the young woman beside him, asking if she is all right. A moment's glance is all it takes for him to answer his own question. Of course, she isn't. The forest floor is now a deadly web of countless, shimmering threads, the true nature of his power, which have ensnared and incapacitated their pursuers. The sight is too much for Shiria. She collapses to her knees, her head covering falling to the ground as she cries out in despair. I can't take it anymore. He watches her, realizing this is the moment the thread of her composure, stretched taut for so long, has finally broken. The true feelings she had desperately suppressed now pour out. Her duties as the saint require her to make pilgrimages, but she explains that on each one, she is relentlessly targeted by someone. As the saint, her power is said to be second only to that of the Pope of the Goddess Church. This makes her a target for two kinds of people: those who seek to exploit her abilities for their own gain, and those who, fearing her power as something evil, seek to eliminate her. He recalls the game from his past life, Clearana Fantasy. Seen through the screen of a console, her tragic circumstances were merely part of the setting, a piece of fiction. But the raw, desperate cry of the girl in front of him now thrusts the undeniable reality of her suffering upon him. He watched as her composure finally shattered. Through racking sobs, Shiria confessed that she just wanted a normal life, that she couldn't bear to be scared anymore. Her tears, she insisted, were not some fabrication. The raw emotion struck him with the force of a physical blow. This was reality. In the quiet of the forest clearing, surrounded by distant mountains, he stepped forward. As she knelt, lost in her sorrow, he gently placed a hand on her head. Startled, she looked up at him, her eyes wide with surprise. He offered a kind, reassuring smile and asked a simple question. Want to come to my place? She could only stare, her cheeks flushing as she stammered in disbelief at the unexpected invitation. He continued softly, acknowledging that while he didn't know her full circumstances, he could see she was a person who always tried her best. He told her it was okay to rest now, that she had struggled enough. His words resonated deeply within her. She looked at him, truly seeing another person who understood suffering. It was far more important, she realized, to rest and smile than to push oneself to the point of tears. Standing before her, he extended his hand. He saw a girl wishing to defy a fate that only made her cry. If she had no place to run, he declared, he would become her sanctuary. In that struggle, they were the same. Her hand trembled as she reached for his. Through fresh tears, she whispered her desire to go with him. As their fingers were about to touch, he internally acknowledged the danger. He shouldn't get close to a girl tied to a destruction flag. But despite that knowledge, he realized he wanted to see her smile more than her tears. In that moment, she formally introduced herself as Shiria Margaret and asked for his name. I'm Alba, he replied warmly. Just call me Alba, Shiria. A brilliant, genuine smile finally broke through her sorrow as she clutched a small, sealed letter. His thought was proven true. A smile suited Shiria far more than tears. Having regained her composure, Shiria stood before Alba. He inquired about the letter she held. Learning it was a reply from her father, the Pope. Before she could elaborate, she suddenly embraced him. Her voice trembled as she asked him to stay by her side, catching him completely off guard. His surprise melted into a warm, reassuring smile. Placing a hand gently on her head, he promised to take responsibility for helping her until the very end. Touched, she whispered his name. He then considered the implications. The Pope wanted her to come to the church, which he suspected would not be a simple affair. As he mulled this over, Shiria cheerfully suggested they go together, pointing towards their destination. Her intended destination was revealed on a pamphlet. Kriana School. The name struck Alba with the force of a physical blow. He instantly recognized it as the main stage for the game, Kriana Fantasy, and was horrified. His mind reeled. For him, that school was not a place of learning, but a stage of death, a place teeming with the destruction flags he had so desperately tried to avoid. Unaware of the dark future he foresaw, she beamed with pure excitement. With a radiant smile, she declared that as long as he was with her, her school life would be the absolute best. Her heartfelt declaration seemed to cut through his panic. A faint blush appeared on his cheeks as he looked at her, his expression softening into one of quiet resolve. But that resolve was immediately shattered. Outside his secluded home, his voice echoed through the mountains as he yelled in protest, absolutely refusing to go. The stage is set at Kriana Academy, the central location of the romance action RPG, Kriana Fantasy. Within this world, Alba Irija, the delinquent son of a duke, was destined to become the ultimate villain, a figure fated for destruction no matter the path taken. To avert this, he was meant to avoid his fate. Having been reincarnated into this very role, he resolved to evade the destruction flags tied to his fate. His plan was simple: retreat to the mountains, live in solitude, and strictly avoid the game's main characters and key locations. Despite his careful planning, a horse-drawn carriage now proceeds down a grand cobblestone avenue, heading directly toward the magnificent spires of Kriana Academy, the very heart of the events he sought to escape. Inside the carriage, Shiria gazes out the window with delight, pointing out the sheer size of the academy to Alba. He can only offer a grim agreement, his plan to stay away having completely failed. Her excitement quickly turns to concern as she notices his pale complexion. She asks if he's all right, but Alba brushes it off, claiming it is only motion sickness from the ride. Still worried, Shiria offers her lap for him to rest on, an offer he politely refuses. Unbeknownst to Shiria Margaret, her companion's turmoil is far from simple travel sickness. His mind races with the knowledge that this academy holds a destruction flag for him, one deeply connected to the game's heroines. He now realizes Shiria is one of them. He questions everything. Why, despite his best efforts, is he now at this academy with her? His thoughts drift to a recent memory. Shiria explaining that a letter from her father contained a message addressed specifically to him. He recalls his own shock at hearing this. The identity of Shiria's father is revealed to be the leader of the goddess sect, the most revered faith in the world. His power and influence are so vast, they are considered comparable to that of the king of Kriana himself. Clutching the letter, Alba breaks into a cold sweat. He had been hiding the daughter of this immensely powerful man and had braced himself for a letter filled with fury. As he reads, the memory of her father vowing to unleash divine punishment using all the sect's power flashes in his mind, yet the letter's contents seemed to be something else entirely. He stood beside Shiria, his expression grim as he held the letter that had brought them to this place. Unfolding the paper, he saw that its contents were not a condemnation, but a message of gratitude and apology. The letter from Shiria's father began to explain her past. It stated that Shiria was the saint not simply because she was the leader's daughter, but because she was born possessing the goddess's grace and power. From that moment, her fate was sealed. She was to dedicate her life to the goddess's teachings. This destiny took hold from a young age, sending her out among the faithful who worshiped the goddess. Her duties as saint forced her to travel constantly, enduring journeys through harsh and dangerous lands. Through it all, she would only smile and say it was her duty as one born to be a saint. The letter confessed that her father had been grateful for that smile, never looking deeper. He had been a fool, the father wrote, completely oblivious to the true feelings his daughter hid behind her placid expression. That is, until Alba appeared and offered her an escape, asking if she would come live with him. The father's words conveyed profound gratitude, thanking Alba from the bottom of his heart for saving both his daughter's body and her soul. He admitted that while Shiria is the saint, he, as the leader of the sect, could not publicly act against her sacred role. And so, as a father, he pleaded with Alba to fulfill his precious daughter's wish for an ordinary life. He asked Alba to support her and to laugh at his own sinfulness for failing her for so long. He looked up from the letter, a gentle smile on his face as he reassured her, stating that he wouldn't laugh. Seeing his expression, Shiria asked what was wrong, her voice filled with concern. She added that her father is a wonderful person, a sentiment that made Alba flinch internally. Composing himself, he formally stated that, begging her pardon for the impertinence, he had a request to make. Shiria immediately agreed. The request, originating from her father's letter, was for Alba to enroll in Cleriana Academy alongside Shiria. The letter explained that Cleriana Academy was a royal institution, safe from foreign threats, and a gathering place for both the talented and the devout. It was a place where Shiria could finally have the life she truly wanted. As he processed this, Shiria looked toward him, her expression hopeful. The weight of the request settled upon him as the letter continued. Shiria's father felt at ease knowing that a man with the power to defeat assassins single-handedly would be by his daughter's side. Furthermore, the letter claimed this was also Shiria's own desire, to be with him. As if on cue, Shiria spoke up, telling a surprised Alba that it was all right. She then declared with a bright smile that she would go to the academy, even if she had to go alone. A chilling thought crossed Alba's mind. He could easily be fooled by that smile, completely missing the true feelings hidden beneath it. His internal realization gave way to an urgent warning. He told a startled Shiria that the academy is a frightening place, filled with people who flaunt their power and authority, and that there are many bad people there. Shiria stared, shocked, whispering his name. But he pressed on, his voice rising to a shout as he demanded to know if she would still go, even knowing all of that. His stern expression softens as Shiria speaks, her tone hopeful. She points out that, despite the dangers, the academy is also a place where she could make many new friends. She clasps her hands, brimming with excitement for a new place, while he worries internally that the unfamiliar environment might lead to her complete exhaustion. For a moment, their faces reflect a shared understanding, both offering gentle, reassuring smiles. Holding her, a firm resolve solidifies within him. He knows he shouldn't get close to the academy, or even to her, but he has made his decision. He will defy the flags of destruction with everything he has. He looks at her bright, happy face and reaffirms his choice, thinking to himself that a smile suits her far better than a sad expression. His mind races through the conflicting reasons for this path. He recalls his forced agreement to attend, the threatening postscript from Shiria's father, and his gratitude to the goddess for her guidance. But that gratitude curdles into shock as he realizes this same goddess is the one guiding him toward ruin, perhaps even orchestrating his reincarnation into this world for that very purpose. And so, with his decision made, the two of them arrive at Cleriana Academy, now clad in the institution's uniforms as they walk among other new students. They both gaze upwards, their mouths agape in awe. Alba exclaims how huge it is, and Shiria enthusiastically agrees. Before them stands the academy in its full glory, a majestic and imposing structure whose sheer presence could never be conveyed through a mere game screen. The grounds are adorned with impressive stone statues, a knight in full armor with sword raised, a serene, winged angel, and a head of a unicorn. On the academy grounds, Shiria admires the statues, commenting on the beauty of the goddess, the hero, and a holy beast. Beside her, Alba internally notes that all these figures were tied to events in the game he remembers, though the specific details are now frustratingly hazy. As they walk, he reflects on his new identity. To avoid the destruction flags associated with his name, Alba Iresia, Shiria's father has provided him the cover of Al, Knight Apprentice. His thoughts are interrupted when other students approach. One expresses disbelief that Alba, a runaway son thought to be disowned, is even here. Shiria reassures them, saying her father will handle any problems. Alba laughs internally, acknowledging the formidable power of the sect's leader. The small group quickly swells into a larger crowd as a student exclaims, "Isn't that the saint? It's the real deal." Alba realizes with a jolt that while he was worried about specific dangerous individuals, he overlooked a more immediate complication. The crowd surges forward, mobbing Shiria with pleas for handshakes and friendship. Pushed aside, Alba understands his error. In this world, the saint is a superstar, and he should have been worried about her fame. She is completely overwhelmed, stammering as the adoring mob presses in, their hands reaching out from all sides. Suddenly, a powerful shockwave erupts from the center of the crowd, blasting outwards and sending the stunned students reeling. He stands resolute, his arm extended, having single-handedly repelled the crowd to create a protective space around Shiria. Lifting the startled Shiria into his arms, he addresses the stunned onlookers with authority. He declares that she is not here as the saint, but as an ordinary student enrolling in Clariana Academy. Shiria gazes up at him, touched. He continues, his voice firm, warning the crowd to refrain from such thoughtless swarming. He proclaims that as a knight apprentice, he is sworn to protect the saint with his very life. He led Shiria away from the stunned onlookers, who could only murmur in confusion. They wondered what had just transpired, remarking on how he had whisked the saint away in a single moment. As they walked, Shiria shyly thanked him, calling him Al. He replied with a wry smile, joking that he couldn't afford to make her sad, lest he incur the wrath of her sex founder. He correctly surmised that the onlookers would likely assume he was the scion of some great noble family. Their private moment, however, did not go unnoticed. From a distance, a sharp-eyed young woman in a distinctive uniform watched them, her expression one of utter shock. A single name escaped her lips in disbelief. Alba. Before the grand, castle-like edifice of Clariana Academy, Shiria turns with a bright smile. She calls out to Alba, suggesting they hurry to pick up their new uniforms. A new chapter begins. The strongest villain, once a recluse, is now thrust onto the main stage after saving the heroine, tasked with avoiding his own destruction. Alba stands resolute, his expression grim. He had mentally prepared for this, but actually standing before the academy brings a fresh wave of tension. He clenches his fist, the knowledge heavy in his mind. It is at Clariana Academy that the character Alba Iresia is destined for ruin. As he grapples with this dark premonition, Shiria gently takes his hand, her touch a soft counterpoint to his inner turmoil. She looks up at him, her smile radiant and reassuring. She tells him not to be afraid, promising that she is with him. Her words have an immediate effect. Alba's trembling stops. He thanks her, remarking that she is truly a saint. Shiria chuckles softly in response, admitting that she is also a little nervous. They proceed toward the academy's entrance, passing under an archway adorned with a striking emblem, a vertical sword flanked by a pair of wings. Inside, they find themselves in a grand hall. Alba stares up in awe at an enormous stained glass window. Shiria explains that it depicts the hero protecting the goddess. As they stand there, she quietly prays that she and Alba will be placed in the same class, a wish Alba realizes is deeply personal. They arrive at the uniform distribution office, where an elderly administrator with large, round glasses greets Alcuin and Shiria-kun. He warmly presents a large paper bag bearing the academy's winged sword crest, announcing that it contains their uniforms. The administrator informs them they have both been assigned to the unicorn class. Alba exclaims in delight that they're in the same class, and Shiria is visibly pleased. The old man encourages them to enjoy their school life. As they thank him, Alba internally recognizes the administrator as a key figure involved in a future event. With their new uniforms in hand, Alba and Shiria walk together across the academy grounds, ready to begin their new life as students. He is startled when a sharp voice calls out his full name, Alba. Shiria, standing beside him, quickly reminds him that at the academy, he is supposed to be just Al. Flustered, he apologizes for the slip-up. The voice belongs to a young woman in a striking uniform, her posture rigid and severe. She confirms her suspicion, noting that while his hair color has changed, there is no doubt in her mind that he is Alba. As she speaks, Alba's mind flashes back to an image of fiery red hair. He remembers her name, Irina. He knows she is an unforgettable figure, a key romance target from the game, and, more critically, his childhood friend and former fiancé. Shiria looks on, confused by the sudden tension. He recognizes her as one of the individuals directly involved in the destruction flag that marks his future ruin. Irina steps closer, her gaze sharp, demanding to know why Alba is in the company of the saintess. In response to the pointed question, Shiria steps forward protectively. She insists it must be a case of mistaken identity, introducing the young man beside her as Al, an apprentice holy knight who serves as her personal attendant. Shiria's attempt to lie quickly unravels as she becomes flustered. She frantically explains that while this Alba did save her life, he is a different Alba, finally shouting that he is Al, not Alba. Alba tries to calm her down as Irina coolly observes, correctly deducing that Alba ran away from home and met the saintess during his travels. He attempts to play dumb, claiming with a nervous sweat that he has no idea what she's talking about. Irina's expression hardens as she accuses him of also spreading the false rumor that he had died. Her patience exhausted, Irina warns that if he continues to feign ignorance, she will cut him down. In a flash of steel, her sword is drawn and stops just shy of his throat. Alba stares, wide-eyed and sweating, at her deadly serious gaze, realizing she's not bluffing. As Irina holds him at sore point, the commotion draws the attention of other students. One recognizes her as Lady Irina Belugia. Irina ignores them, ordering Shiria to stand back and demanding once more, "Are you Alba?" Another onlooker questions who the man with the saintess is. His expression shifts from shock to grim determination. He resolves internally that no matter what fate awaits him, he will fight back with everything he has. Shiria and the other students watch in stunned silence. He turns his head, his expression hardening as she addresses him by a name from his past, Al. In response to his tense silence, Irina's lips curl into a confident smile. She declares that if he won't admit it, she will simply carve the truth into his very being. adding that she accepts his unspoken challenge. She lunges, shouting that this is punishment for deceiving the Bellugia family. Alba barely parries, grunting from the force. He internally panics, realizing this is a terrible situation. In the game's lore, Irina was one of the most skilled sword users. The sheer pressure of her assault forces a moment of intense clarity. She follows up with a powerful downward slash, aiming to overwhelm him completely. But her blade finds only empty space, shattering the flagstones where he once stood. Irina's eyes widen in shock as the crowd, Shiria among them, gasps that he has vanished. In the next instant, he materializes directly behind her, his form shimmering with an unfamiliar energy. Before she can react, he moves with impossible speed, disarming her and turning her own weapon against her, its tip now resting at her throat. His eyes are sharp and focused as a single thought crystallizes in his mind. This is the power of magic. He recalls a passage from a book he once studied. It described the natural forces of magic, fire, water, wind, and the principle that one must harmonize with their own innate attribute to wield it. He recalled the long years of preparation. To understand his own power, he had spent time studying, remembering how he used to research enemy weaknesses back when this world was just a game to him. This research led him to focus inward, seeking a strange sensation beyond his five senses. He concentrated, attempting to harmonize his consciousness with the world itself. His practice was relentless. For 1 year, he constantly focused on that feeling. For a second, he honed it. By the third year, he had learned to freely wield the power of thunder. His mastery became so complete that he could transform his very body into the element he now commanded. A bolt of pure lightning crashed down, a testament to the power he had just unleashed. He reveled in the realization. His attribute was thunder, a power to resist his destruction flag. He laughed to himself, thinking it a fitting ability for the story's ultimate villain. His moment of triumph passed, and he turned his attention back to the woman before him. "Irina, please listen," he began, but she sharply cut him off, commanding him to be silent and refusing to hear any more of his prattle. Despite her command, he continued, apologizing. He explained that the man she knew as Alba was gone, and that he was now just Al. He understood that she must hate him. His words stunned her, her mind questioning the apology and the mention of hate. Her confusion and frustration erupted. With a powerful shout beginning with "I," she unleashed a burst of energy, forcing him away. In the ensuing chaos, the crowd cried out as he vanished once more. The academy administrator and other onlookers realized with alarm that the saint had disappeared as well. Left alone in the courtyard, Irina stood stunned, understanding that he had escaped. She remained still, a single tear marking her cheek as she stared into the distance. A concerned onlooker asked if she was all right, but she merely replied that she had gotten a bit of dust in her eye, insisting it was nothing. Meanwhile, having put some distance between themselves and the academy, Alba carried Shiria through the town streets. He apologized for suddenly sweeping her into his arms, acknowledging that it must have been a surprise. He noticed her pouting expression and asked if she was angry. Shiria quickly denied it, though her thoughts betrayed her as she couldn't help but wonder about the beautiful woman named Irina. She continued, her cheeks puffed out in a clear display of jealousy, insisting that she wasn't upset just because Irina was more mature, had a larger chest, and was beautiful. Her transparent denial caused Alba to laugh. He leaned in, gently teasing that she was a truly terrible liar. Flustered, Shiria quickly changed her tune, declaring that she would be fine with the situation if he carried her all the way to the house prepared for them by the leader of her sect. Amused, Alba chuckled and agreed to her demand. As he continued carrying a now-content Shiria through the streets, it became clear that their new life at Clariana Academy was already off to a tumultuous start. Alba and Shiria arrived before a large, handsome two-story house with a prominent winged symbol above the door, their new home. Shiria looks up at the building in awe, exclaiming that it's much bigger than her house in the mountains. Alba, however, looks on with a more calculating expression, recognizing the style of the home. Her excitement continues as she points to a small garden plot, delighted at the prospect of growing vegetables again. Alba's mind, however, is elsewhere. He silently notes the features. A two-story house with a garden, situated right in the center of the royal capital, where people from all over the world gather. He gazes out at the surrounding affluent neighborhood, realizing the rent for such a place must be astronomical. It is a clear display of the power wielded by Shiria's father, the leader of the sect. They head inside, where Shiria cheerfully carries a large, new bathtub up the stairs as Alba follows, holding a bag marked with the sect's emblem. Later, Alba sits alone on the edge of a bed in a sparsely furnished room, quietly conceding to himself that it is, in fact, a nice house. He and Shiria sit together at a table. She asks if he received money for living expenses along with the house. Alba confirms he received nothing, explaining he assumed the arrangement was meant to foster her independence, not just to spoil her. Shiria is touched, thinking her father was being considerate after all. Alba continues, noting that his own funds are low and he must find work immediately. He glances at his nearly empty wallet. Shiria, however, reassures him that it will be all right. She then reveals that her father has already arranged a job for her at the church. Alba looks up from the table, surprised by this development. Shiria explains the nature of her work. As the saint, she possesses two great powers from the goddess: the power to hear oracles, which has averted disasters, and the power of healing, a superior form of recovery magic. Believers seeking her aid will gather, and she will receive a portion of their donations as income. Alba listens intently, processing the information. He considered Shiria's pure intentions. She was simply trying to help everyone. However, he couldn't shake the dark thought that some, seeing the immense donation she attracted, viewed her merely as a source of wealth. Shiria, noticing his grim expression, asked what was wrong. He quickly dismissed her concern, claiming it was nothing. Later, inside their home, he insisted that he would also work, telling Shiria not to worry about money. She questioned this, reminding him that she had offered to provide for them. He countered that it was a matter of a man's pride not to let a girl work while he did nothing. With a teasing smile, he added that she should save such efforts for her future husband. His words struck a nerve, causing a deep blush to spread across Shiria's face as she clenched her small fists in flustered embarrassment. Abruptly, she stood and announced she would be eating dinner alone, telling Alba to do as he pleased. Before he could question her, she hurried out the door. Left alone, Alba laid down and reflected. He hadn't said anything wrong. He was, after all, merely her companion. He reminded himself that in the grand scheme of things, she already had a proper partner waiting for her. That partner was Yuri's, the official protagonist of the world of clear enough fantasy. Handsome, a master of sword and magic, and possessing a saintly personality, the polar opposite of a villain. According to the story's design, all the game's heroines were destined to fall in love with him. 3 months had passed since they first met. Standing before their quaint wooden house, Shiria asked in wonder if she could truly live there. Alba warmly encouraged her to relax and stay as long as she liked, reminding her that in this moment, she wasn't a saint, but just an ordinary girl. They settled into a peaceful routine. Shiria found joy in farm work and cooking, admitting the latter was difficult. Alba laughed, praising the fresh vegetables they'd harvested. Later, under a sky so full of stars it felt like one could be pulled into it, Shiria whispered that it was the first time in her life she had ever experienced such a sight. It was a time spent in simple, carefree happiness. A memory of them together in a field of flowers surfaced in his mind, her joyful voice calling his name. Lying in bed, Alba reasoned with himself. If Shiria followed the proper story, he could avoid his own destruction. It was for the best. And yet, he had to admit that to say he wouldn't feel lonely when they eventually parted would be a lie. He sleeps soundly in his bed. As he rests, Shiria quietly pushes the door open and peers into his room, her expression filled with remorse. She whispers his name, offering an apology for her earlier behavior. Kneeling beside his bed, she continues speaking to the sleeping Alba, telling him that she is only here because of him. A quiet, heartfelt thank you escapes her lips as she bows her head over him. By the time morning light streams through the window, Shiria is gone. Alba stirs in his bed, groggily wondering if it's morning as a bird chirps on a branch outside, the distant castle visible behind it. He sits up and discovers a note left for him, along with a wrapped meal. The note is from Shiria. She apologizes again, tells him to eat the food she bought, and explains that she has gone to the church for her duties. He smiles softly, whispering his thanks to her. Without hesitation, he unwraps the meal, a hearty sandwich, and takes a large, satisfying bite. As he eats, his resolve hardens. With Shiria at the church, he realizes he must also go out and do his part. He needs to earn money. His destination is a formidable stone building in the city, marked with a distinct emblem of a sword within a cross-like shape. People mill about its grand entrance. This is the Adventurers Guild. It serves as the central hub that manages and assigns jobs from all across the kingdom. The requests range from simple delivery errands to perilous missions, such as the subjugation of dangerous creatures known as magical beasts. Inside, Alba, now wearing a hood to conceal his identity, observes the other adventurers. He recalls that in the game world of clear and fantasy, becoming an adventurer was an optional element, not required to complete the main story. But now, in this new reality, he sees it as the most direct path to earning the money he needs. His eyes land on a high-ranking, 5-star quest posted on the board, a subjugation request for a giant magical beast. The reward is a staggering 5 million C. Though he has never fought a magical beast before, he clenches his fist, confident that the power he has spent the last 3 years cultivating will be enough. He stood before the high-level request board, only for his confidence to be shattered by a nearby adventurer. The armored man pointed out that this was the board for 5-star quests, laughing at the notion that a newcomer could possibly undertake one. The realization struck Alba with a jolt. He had been mistaken. His ambition was immediately checked by the guild's regulations. A cheerful receptionist with glasses welcomed him, explaining that high-paying rewards were out of reach for novices. To access more difficult and lucrative quests, an adventurer must first raise their rank. The system starts everyone at a single star, with rank increasing based on the number of completed quests and contributions to the guild. Heeding her words, he moved to the appropriate counter, which was designated for 1-star rank adventurers. The receptionist confirmed this was the correct place for him to accept his first job. With his first official quest accepted, he turned and walked away from the counter, a paper marked with a 4-leaf clover emblem in hand. He then departed from the stone fortress of the Adventurers Guild, ready to begin his new career. Outside, he examined the details. It was a 1-star quest to gather medicinal herbs. He accepted that he would have to start with such menial tasks to steadily raise his rank. The destination was the West Forest. Deciding against the cost of a carriage, he resolved to run the distance himself. As he set off through the bustling streets, he passed by a pair of adventurers drinking in the open, one of whom was the same armored man who had mocked him at the quest board. The two men barely had time to register his presence as he moved past them in a sudden, startling blur of motion. He channeled his strength into his legs, launching himself forward with explosive speed and leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Elsewhere in the city, 2 students walked together. The girl, with long twin tails, complained about the hassle of living in a dorm. Her companion replied that it was unavoidable, given the high cost of rent in the royal capital. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by a powerful gust of wind that tore past them, a testament to the unseen speed of the runner who had just passed by. The shockwave from Alba's passage buffets 2 students on the street. The young woman with glasses stumbles, crying out in surprise at the sudden gust of wind. Her male companion, however, watches with a smirk, quietly impressed by the display of power. She turns to her other companion, a dark-haired young man, and calls out his name, Yuri's. He glances back briefly before dismissing her concern with a calm smile. It's nothing, he assures her. Let's go, Alice. The burst of speed did not go unnoticed by others. Elsewhere on the crowded street, a young man with spiky, light-toned hair freezes in place, his eyes wide with disbelief. As dust settles around citizens knocked off their feet, he wonders to himself if what he just witnessed was even possible. And so, 2 key figures in the capital, the dark-haired Yuri's and the silver-haired Alba, stand on separate paths, unaware of the inevitable intersection of their destinies. In a sunlit clearing, Alba kneels, triumphantly holding a 4-leaf clover. He has successfully completed a medicinal herb collection quest for the Adventurers Association, a task he now undertakes to make a living. Having secured the herb, he makes his way back with incredible speed, leaping down a steep cliffside with practiced ease. He reflects that after living in the mountains for 3 years, such feats are simple for him. He arrives back at the guild hall and presents the collected herbs to the receptionist. She stares in utter disbelief, exclaiming that he's already finished the quest only 3 hours after accepting it. She remains flustered, pointing out that the location requires a 6-hour round trip. Alba nonchalantly explains that he simply ran very, very fast. Processing this, the receptionist informs him that his reward is ready. He accepts the payment of 10,000 C, noting internally that it's a meager sum for a 1-star quest. He resolves that he must raise his adventurer rank quickly if he wants to earn a substantial income. As he walks away from the guild, his gaze drifts towards a grand clock tower in the distance. His thoughts turn to Shiria, and he quietly wonders if she is doing well. Meanwhile, Shiria stands before a massive congregation, dressed in the formal vestments of a saint. With hands outstretched, she leads them in prayer, asking the goddess to guide the lost towards their true destiny. The crowd is enraptured, calling out for her blessing. A divine, holy light envelopes her, and her face is serene with power. Her father watches with satisfaction, pleased by the devotion she inspires. In the same time it took Alba to earn his small fee, Shiria had earned more than 10 times as much. Elsewhere, in the capital city, a young man with spiky, light-toned hair happily eats a bowl of noodles. He muses to himself that it's wonderful the capital has ramen shops. He then glances out a window at the grand ducal estate of House Irija. He knows this is Alba's family home, now run by Alba's older brother. He reflects that since Alba left home so quickly, the family is like a group of strangers to him, a fact he finds difficult to comprehend. In a capital city ramen shop, Alba finishes his meal. He reflects on his new environment. Unlike the mountains, the capital holds people who know him, and he is certain that individuals like Irina Belugia do not think well of him. He resolves to keep a low profile, aware that he must avoid triggering any destruction flags. Meanwhile, the mysterious spiky-haired youth walks through the city streets, his hood drawn. He quietly considers that he doesn't know who or what might be connected to a destruction flag, reinforcing his need for constant vigilance. His thoughts are abruptly cut short by screams from the crowd. A horse with wild eyes has broken free and is rampaging down the thoroughfare, directly toward a young girl who has fallen onto the cobblestones. The terrified girl is frozen in place, her eyes wide with shock as the massive animal bears down on her. Cries from the onlookers urge people to flee. She lets out a small scream as the horse gallops closer, its hooves just moments from impact. In that critical instant, a blinding flash of energy erupts, forming a barrier between the girl and the charging beast. She looks on in astonishment. A wave of blue light surges forth. The hooded youth now stands beside the girl, calmly asking if she is all right. She remains seated on the dusty street, looking up at the space where the immediate danger once was as the crowd watches from a safe distance. Her rescuer stands firm, his intervention having completely neutralized the threat. He rests a foot on the back of the now unconscious horse, its rampage brought to a sudden and decisive end. He knelt before the young girl he had just saved, a reassuring smile on his face as he asked if she was injured. She looked up, her eyes wide with relief, and stammered that she was all right. Her gaze lingered on his face. She apologized for her forwardness, but mentioned that she felt she had seen him somewhere before. The youth's expression faltered as a dreadful thought crossed his mind. If she was the daughter of a noble, it was entirely possible she would recognize Alba of the Duke's house. His internal panic was suddenly interrupted by the roar of the crowd that had gathered. The townspeople erupted in cheers for their unexpected hero. As the crowd's praise continued, the youth quickly pulled his hood over his head, realizing with dismay that while he had saved the girl, he was now attracting far too much attention. At that moment, a commanding voice cut through the noise, demanding to know the cause of the commotion. An armored man had arrived. The newcomer stood with an imposing air, flanked by 2 guards in full helms. His own polished armor and cape marked him as a person of significant authority. He approached the pair. The young girl, recognizing the armored man, introduced herself as Mina and reminded him that they had met once at the ceremony for Lord Roy's succession. The man acknowledged her, identifying her as from the baronial house of Rupakar. The man, Roy, then declared that as the one who maintains order in the capital for the ducal house, and as a friend to the Rupakar family, he offered his gratitude. A chilling realization struck the hooded youth. This was Alba's brother. He stood frozen, his face completely obscured by his hood. A single, desperate thought consumed him. He absolutely could not allow this man to discover his true identity. As he remained silent, Mina looked up in awe, addressing the man as Duke Roy Irija. The youth began to sweat, his mind racing. Was Roy's gratitude genuine, or was his own silence being interpreted as mere disrespect? Roy's eyes narrowed with suspicion. He finally spoke, attempting to deflect by saying he hadn't done anything significant and tried to excuse himself. Roy's cold voice stopped him. "Did my thanks not reach you?" he asked. "Or are you simply ill-mannered?" He remains frozen, his back to the imposing figure of Duke Roy Irija. Standing beside the Duke, Shiria looks on with concern. Roy breaks the silence, his voice sharp as he asks, "Alba?" The Duke continues, a condescending tone in his voice as he explains his suspicion. "Forgive me," he says, "but your voice is far too similar to my foolish younger brother's." Under his hood, the youth begins to sweat, the accusation hitting too close to home. Trying to deflect, he claims his face is not fit to be seen by a duke. Roy's patience wears thin. He counters that he will be the judge of that, and, with a sharp command, orders the youth to turn and face him immediately. The situation has become dire. Before he can be forced to comply, a clear voice cuts through the tension. "I found you, Al. Irina Belugia, flanked by 2 knights, has arrived." The spiky-haired youth and Shiria both flinch in surprise at the unexpected appearance. He lets out a choked gasp, his predicament worsening. Nearby, the young girl Mina stares in shock, while Roy Irija silently watches the scene unfold, his gaze fixed on the newcomer. With a confident stride, Irina approaches the Duke and offers a polite greeting. The youth's internal panic intensifies. This is bad, very bad. His mind races. He is caught between a rock and a hard place. Irina, who knows his true identity, is the tiger at the front gate, while his own brother, Roy, is the wolf at the back. He frantically searches for a way out of this impossible situation. Seizing the opportunity, Roy directs his question to the newcomer. "Lady Irina, is this man an acquaintance of yours?" he asks. She replies without hesitation, "Yes, Lord Roy. He is my friend, Al, an apprentice holy knight." Her answer gives Roy pause. A flicker of confusion, mixed with intrigue, crosses his face as he tries to make sense of this unexpected development. She presses her advantage, feigning surprise. "Alba? Surely not," she declares confidently. "If it were him, I would not be mistaken." Her certainty seems to sway the Duke, who muses aloud. "Al, I see. So it wasn't Alba after all." He remains silent, his gaze fixed and unreadable. Beside him, a woman in a formal suit addressed him, stating that she was once the fiancée of the man in question. She then added a pointed reminder. "That man is dead." Turning his attention away from the matter, he offered to escort the young girl, Mina, to her residence. Mina, flustered by the imposing figure, stammered her thanks as Irina and the hooded Alba looked on. Before departing, Mina turned to the hooded figure she knew as Al, thanking him earnestly for his help. He simply nodded in response. With the farewells exchanged, Roy and his retinue departed, walking down the cobbled street. Alba and Irina watched them go. Once they were alone, a tense silence fell between the two as they stood in the now quiet street. He broke the quiet, pulling back his hood slightly. He thanked Irina, admitting her intervention had saved him from a troublesome situation, and then began to take his leave. But before he could turn away, the cold steel of a blade was pressed against his throat. He gasped in shock as Irina's voice cut through the air, demanding he explain himself. Her expression was deadly serious as she held the point of her sword steady, addressing him not as Al, but by his true name, Alba. A cold sweat broke out on his brow as he stammered, feigning ignorance. The realization hit him with chilling certainty. She knew his identity all along. Irina's eyes narrowed, and she warned him that if he continued to play dumb, she would inform the Iresia ducal house of his survival. He threw his hands up in surrender, internally lamenting that his new academy life was already in jeopardy before it had even begun. Defeated, he agreed to explain everything. He reflects on his inescapable connection to the saint, Shiria. In his mind, he sees her elevated before an adoring crowd, a beatific smile on her face as they reach for her. To him, she is the goddess of fate, the one who truly will not let him escape his destiny. This thought is punctuated by a memory of his brother, Roy, standing beside a young woman who declares him the goddess of fate. As the words from the true flag of ruin echo, the faces of those who define his world flash before his eyes. The Saint Shiria, the imposing Irina, the young girl Mina, the cheerful Alice, and finally, his own determined expression, ready to face what comes next. At the prestigious Klina Academy, the entrance ceremony begins. A message welcomes the young people who will carry the future, urging them to hold ambition and hone their wisdom. Among the diverse new students, including Alba, Shiria, and Irina, a new chapter of life starts. On stage, the Academy's headmaster delivers a passionate speech. He exhorts the students, guided by the goddess of fate, to illuminate their own destinies and shine brightly, punctuating his words with a spirited cheer. From the crowd, Shiria remarks on the headmaster's energy. Alba, however, recognizes the old man as a helper character from the game world who provides hints for progression. The thought solidifies a simple fact. He and Shiria have successfully enrolled in Klina Academy. His relief is short-lived as a grim realization dawns on him. This academy is the main stage for his destruction flags. He understands that his downfall is intrinsically linked to the stories of 5 specific heroines. He considers that he is already involved in the stories of 2 of them, Shiria and Irina. He knows it would be disastrous to add any more elements that could lead to his ruin. His gaze then falls upon 2 other classmates he must be wary of, Alice, the protagonist's childhood friend, and Lily, the sage's disciple. But beyond even the 5 heroines, he realizes there is one person he must be even more careful of. He spots him in the crowd. Yuri's, the main protagonist of the game, Klina Fantasy. The reason for his caution is simple and terrifying. In the original story, nearly every path to the villain Alba's death is brought about at the hands of the hero, Yuri's. The 2 young men stand as perfect opposites, the destined hero and the reincarnated villain, their fates intertwined. The weight of this knowledge makes Alba flinch. Beside him, Shiria calls his name in concern, while nearby, Alice asks Yuri's if he is all right. Ignoring the world around him, Alba makes a silent, desperate vow. He will absolutely not get involved. He will live a quiet, unremarkable life. He sits rigidly in the front row of the classroom designated Unicorn, his worst fears realized. Positioned directly beside him is Shiria, and scattered around the room are the very faces he had resolved to avoid, their presence a palpable weight in the tense air. The classroom buzzes with excitement over the Saintess's unexpected enrollment. Alba realizes with dawning horror that being near her makes it impossible to avoid the spotlight. As he internally panics, wondering how to salvage his dream of a normal school life, Shiria turns to him and asks what they should do. Before he can answer, she addresses the class, introducing herself as Shiria Margaret. Continuing her introduction with a bright, disarming smile, she announces that she is a first-year student in the Unicorn Group at Klina Academy, just like everyone else. Her charm is instantaneous. The other girls are immediately won over, eagerly asking if they can call her Shiria-chan. Watching this, Alba feels a flicker of relief, thinking that her immense popularity means he has nothing to worry about. Just then, the classroom door slides open. That relief evaporates as a classmate with an afro asks who Shiria is to him, remarking that his face seems familiar. Alba feels the weight of his peers' suspicious glares, their figures turning into menacing shadows around him. He realizes with a jolt of fear that in an academy full of nobles, his distinct hair and features, though altered, could still lead to his true identity being exposed. Before he can formulate a response, the cat-eared girl beside him intervenes. She introduces him to the class as her friend, an apprentice holy knight named Al, and asks everyone to be nice to the shy young man. Shiria looks on with an encouraging smile, but Alba is aghast. Being vouched for by someone who seems so suspicious is a terrible move, he thinks. However, her endorsement, amplified by the Saintess's perceived power, works wonders. The entire class erupts in a boisterous welcome for Al. The welcoming noise subsides as a new voice speaks. Irina Belugia stands there, hand raised in greeting, confirming that she, too, is in the Unicorn Group and is now his classmate. Her presence causes another stir. Students murmur, recognizing the esteemed Irina Belugia. One boy's careless wish to date her is quickly shot down by another, who warns of her formidable swordsmanship, endorsed by the royal knights themselves. Alba breaks into a cold sweat. He remembers now. He already told this woman his real name. The full, horrifying truth crashes down on him. She knows he isn't Al, but Alba, because she is his former fiancée. His former fiancée's declaration sends a ripple of shock through the classroom. While Irina calmly apologizes to a stunned Shiria for the commotion, Another student with cat-like ears cries out in disbelief, shouting the word fiancé. Sometime later, on an academy walkway, Irina confronts Alba directly. She asks if his disappearance 3 years ago was because he grew tired of the ducal family and ran away. He affirms this, admitting he wanted to cast off his old self and be reborn as someone new. He gazes out at the distant city, reflecting on the past 3 years. He knows explaining his reincarnation is impossible. No one would believe him. Worse, he fears it could trigger a destruction flag, a catastrophic event leading to his death. It's a truth he feels no one could ever understand. Irina's voice cuts through his thoughts, recounting how the Irija family abruptly broke off their engagement without explanation. Rumors then spread through town that he was missing, dead, or even assassinated by his own father. With a dry laugh, she remarks on how infamous he had become. Her tone darkens. She confesses that when she believed him to be dead, she often fantasized about striking down the vulgar, lecherous scoundrel he used to be with her own hands. Alba flinches, a wave of pure terror washing over him. As he recoils in fear, her next words catch him completely off guard. She simply states that tears were shed. The tears are her own. With a pained expression, she says his name, Alba, explaining that she cried because she, as a person named Irina, has value. A gentle, tearful smile forms on her lips. I didn't dislike the you from back then, she admits softly. He stares, completely stunned as a blush creeps across his face. This is a development he never knew from a game. He begins to wonder if the original Alba wasn't truly a villain after all. Irina notes that his recent heroic actions make him seem truly reborn, almost like the person he used to be. Seeing his confusion, she changes the subject, warning him that many nobles at the academy resent him. Then, to his shock, she offers to help him keep his identity a secret. Really? He blurts out incredulous. He smiles, expressing his gratitude to Irina. She turns her head aside, a faint blush on her cheeks, and dismisses his thanks as nothing. He is taken aback as she clarifies the terms of their new promise. She explains that since their engagement was officially dissolved, she has been relentlessly pursued by other suitors. Therefore, she declares, if any of them cause trouble, it will be his responsibility to eliminate them. Later, inside the academy building, Alba reminds Irina not to forget their agreement. Nearby, a student with a distinctive two-tone hairstyle looks on in surprise, addressing Alba familiarly. Before the conversation can continue, Shiria timidly calls out to Irina. Irina turns her attention to the saint, asking what she needs. Shiria, with earnest eyes, requests that Irina drop the formal honorifics and simply call her Shiria, since they're classmates. Irina smiles and agrees, on the condition that Shiria does the same and calls her Irina. The two girls quickly warm to each other. As Irina formally welcomes Shiria, the latter becomes adorably flustered. Watching them from the side, Alba can't help but think how cute their budding friendship is. Their friendly interaction draws the attention of other classmates. One student approaches Alba, asking why he kept his acquaintance with the famous Irina a secret. Alba, flustered, tries to explain that he wasn't intentionally hiding it. He just never found the right moment to mention it. From across the room, the student with the two-toned hair watches them, a sharp, predatory grin spreading across his face. He strides confidently towards Alba's group, interrupting them. What do you want? Alba asks on guard. The newcomer smirks, declaring that anyone who doesn't recognize him must be a complete nobody from the countryside. He then turns his attention to Irina, bowing with exaggerated flair and complimenting her unchanging beauty. With a sneer, he remarks that Alba, too, is the same troublemaker he always was. Irina leans toward Alba, confirming his suspicions. This man, she whispers, is one of the very people she needs his cooperation to handle. He watches as the arrogant suitor, Walby, addresses Irina. Walby boasts that his family, the Walgets, though only a count's house, are a noble clan worthy of being partners to the ducal Persia family. He condescendingly tells Irina not to bring marriage proposals to the academy, then adds that her own value is far greater than she herself believes. In his eyes, she is a beautiful, single flower blooming for the ducal house of Persia, a lineage that distantly traces its roots back to the royal family itself. The talk of family worth triggers a memory for Irina. Duke Irija, Alba's father, propositioning her to walk with him for the prosperity of both their families, as Shiria stood by. Back in the present, Alba cuts through the posturing, asking Walby what he's been rambling about. He states plainly that he's only here because Irina asked him to be, nothing more. His gaze hardens as he continues, declaring that anyone who doesn't understand the value of Irina as a person is someone he dislikes. Walby stares, utterly stunned. In the crowd, Shiria claps her hands together, impressed, thinking that this is just like Alba. Irina looks toward Alba, a flicker of emotion on her face. Enraged, Walby shouts that Alba's words are an insult to the Walgot family that he will not forgive. He throws a white handkerchief, yelling for Alba to take it. Alba catches it deftly, confused, and asks what it is. With a smug grin, Walby announces to the stunned crowd that it is a duel. Alba's eyes widen in shock, his mind reeling as he blurts out why. As the crowd buzzes with anticipation, a cat-eared girl enthusiastically cheers for Alba to do his best. He, however, stares ahead in utter confusion, wondering what is happening, while Irina looks on with a tired, unimpressed expression. The situation is governed by the Cleana Academy's code. While the school rules forbid any and all mortal combat, they do acknowledge the right to challenge another to a duel, but only as a means to protect one's own dignity and pride. These duels are only permitted within the official academy dueling grounds, and they require the presence of a designated witness to be valid. Within that very arena, Alba and Warabi now face each other. A small, talking black cat in a formal hat introduces itself as the witness, a Kate Sith, and officially announces the start of the duel between the two students as the crowd cheers. From the sidelines, the cat-eared girl expresses her admiration for Alba accepting the duel. Irina sternly reminds her that fleeing a duel is a disgrace worse than death, telling Alba to be prepared. He internally panics, realizing he knew nothing about the rules of dueling. The Kate Sith referee then addresses both combatants, stating that they must make a pledge of honor and pride before beginning. He recalls that in the game world, the dueling system was merely a side event, unrelated to his own destruction flags. Warabi then smirks, declaring his terms. If he loses, he will not interfere with Irina, but if he wins, he will also claim the saint as his own. Hearing this, Alba's expression hardens. He agrees to the duel, but only on the condition that Warabi stays away from them. Standing across the arena, Warabi repeats his stake for all to hear. If he wins, Alba is forbidden from approaching the girls. He smirks, utterly convinced that victory will be his. With the terms set, the Kate Sith referee declares that the oaths of both parties are established and officially starts the duel. As the match begins, the cat-eared girl asks Irina if Warabi is strong. Irina gravely confirms that he is a flame mage, and likely the best in their year with fire magic. Her friend is shocked by the revelation. On the field, Warabi begins a powerful incantation, calling upon the Crimson Purgatory to unleash its raging flames and turn his obstacle to scorched earth. He notes Alba's lack of incantation for his fire tribute magic, then unleashes a massive fireball, an advanced spell called Hellflame. The referee, Kate Sith, observes that Warabi is chanting advanced magic. The immense sphere of fire hurtles towards Alba, who stands his ground, bracing for the devastating impact. The resulting shockwave ripples through the spectators. Irina, Shiria, and the other students cry out Alba's name in alarm, while the referee cat, Kate Sith, watches with a subtle smile. The spell detonates, engulfing the area where Alba stood in a colossal pillar of smoke and fire that tears up the dueling grounds. As the smoke begins to clear, Warabi stands confidently, marveling at the incredible power of the flame. Nearby, Kate Sith calmly states that its intervention is not yet necessary. Suddenly, Alba's voice cuts through the air from behind Warabi, who whirls around in shock. Alba points out that chanting a spell leaves one wide open. The crowd erupts in confusion and amazement, questioning how Alba performed an instantaneous movement, while Irina observes his motion with focused intensity. She reflects on his speed. He didn't just dodge her sword strike before, he seemed to grasp its very nature. His movement is like lightning. From the crowd, a young woman named Lily also identifies his power as lightning, realizing that he didn't generate it, but transformed his own body into the phenomenon itself. Lily continues her internal analysis. Magic, she thinks, is the act of adding a phenomenon to the world. But Alba did something different. He added a phenomenon into himself. Or rather, he became the phenomenon. The crowd around her murmurs in confusion, wondering who she is and how Alba could possibly cast magic without an incantation. She considers how few people present could possibly understand how difficult and dangerous Alba's feat is. Irina stares intently, recognizing the power as belonging to the realm of her master, the sage. Alba himself looks at his hand, a sense of discovery on his face. Lily stands with quiet confidence, a small smile on her face as she declares that he will not lose. A chronicler's note identifies her as Lily, the sage's disciple and one of the world's heroines. On the dueling grounds, Warabi lunges forward with a furious expression, charging directly at Alba, who stands waiting with a calm, almost casual posture. The referee, Kate Sith, watches from the side. His opponent, Alba, internally notes that interfering with the world's principles via a spell leaves one full of openings. Warabi, enraged, screams that Alba's own incantation was the one that was sloppy and vulnerable. He stands his ground as, from across the hall, a massive beam of energy erupts from Warabi's position, hurtling towards him and striking with explosive force. The challenger is wreathed in a powerful aura of flame, his hands outstretched as he begins to channel his magic. He unleashes a torrent of fire magic directly at Alba. The fiery blast engulfs Alba, creating a massive explosion at the point of impact. From the smoke, he emerges completely unscathed, a hand raised as if to block. Alba remarks that he might have overdone it. On the floor lies the defeated Warabi, as Kate Sith declares him out of the ring. His victory is met with a roar from the crowd, with students cheering his name. Alba give a casual wave. Meanwhile, a white rescue cat, a cat nurse, tend to the unconscious Warabi, assuring everyone he is only knocked out. From the stands, A young woman named Alice exclaims how amazing Alba is, shocked that he could cast such powerful magic without an incantation. Her companion, Yuri's, agrees, stating that coming to see the duel was the right decision. They are identified as the world's legitimate protagonist and heroine, respectively. Yuri's continues his analysis, observing that Alba didn't actually strike his opponent, but merely thrust his hand out. Alice seems confused by this observation. Elsewhere, Alba is seen pushing a gurney, on which a securely bound Warabi is being wheeled away, as Alba muses that he knocked his opponent out in a single blow. He could see that Alba hadn't actually landed a blow. The boy had simply closed the distance to his opponent and thrust his arm forward. Instead, by moving at a speed akin to lightning, he generated a tremendous shockwave that sent his opponent flying, while the other students were left bewildered by the display. With Alice admitting she only saw Alba move with a flash of blue light, Yuri's perception was far clearer. He had seen everything. This prompted Alice to ask him directly if he could win in a fight against Alba. Yuri seemed uncertain, explaining that just because he could see the movements didn't mean he could counter them, leading Alice to wonder aloud if he would lose. With firm resolve, he crossed his arms, declaring that he would not lose. He clarified that there was no need to fight in the first place, but if Alba were to ever threaten something precious to him, defeat was not an option. Meanwhile, as Alba walked from the arena, he was met by Irina and a cheerfully waving Alice. Irina immediately questioned him about the source of his newfound power. He answered simply that he had been training while living in the mountains, though he knew the truth was more complex. In this world, only he understood the true, latent talent of the person known as Alba. Elsewhere, the defeated Warabi seethed. He realized that in the original game, Alba was a character with the potential to be a final boss. If such a person trained and leveled up, he would surely become an unbeatable force, even for the protagonist. Warabi clenched his fist, roaring internally that he is strong. Unaware of this, Alba continued his conversation. Irina remarked that for someone who hated effort, he seemed like a completely different person. He simply smiled, reminding her that he had already told them. He was reborn. He stands flustered as Alice playfully declares that Shiria now belongs to him. Overwhelmed by the teasing, Alba can only stammer that Shiria is the best of people. Nearby, Yuri's reflects on his own recent duel, admitting with a smile that he might have gone too far, but stands by his actions, stating that anyone who troubles Irina deserves to be knocked aside. Irina observes him, thinking how dependable this saint is. At the same time, Shiria turns to Alba, thanking him for dueling on her behalf. He simply replies that he was keeping a promise. His gaze then settles on Irina, and with a confident grin, he clarifies his motive. He is there to help her. A faint blush rises on Irina's cheeks as she quietly affirms his statement with a simple, yeah. And so, with the immediate conflicts resolved, the group walks onward together. Unbeknownst to them, the wheels of fate were steadily turning. It was a destiny that was weaving itself together in ways Alba couldn't yet perceive, steadily drawing in the principal figures of this era, Shiria, Yuri's, Irina, and others, into its grand design. In a sunlit room, Shiria forcefully wakes a groggy Alba, announcing that it's time for breakfast. She sits on his bed, pulling at him as he protests that he's still too tired to get up. His new life, dragged into the spotlight by the very heroine he saved, has begun. Over breakfast, Shiria proudly mentions how her cooking skills have improved since their time in the mountains, and Alba agrees that he'll handle dinner. She eagerly requests his meat and potato stew. As he prepares to leave, she hands him a wrapped lunchbox, which he accepts with a simple thanks. He stares at the offered lunch, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. The simple gesture feels foreign to him as he quietly acknowledges the bento. Now, in their academy uniforms, they walk toward the school grounds. Shiria cheerfully remarks how enjoyable the classes are, but Alba, with his tie loosened and a hand behind his head, complains that he finds them difficult. As they approach the grand gates of the academy, Irina Belugia greets them with a pleasant good morning amidst the throng of other students arriving for the day. He sits in class, chin resting on his hand with a bored expression. Alba reflects internally that his new school life has been surprisingly peaceful. His thoughts continue, noting that since the duel on the first day, nothing has occurred that would trigger a destruction flag. The instructor asks the class a question, but Alba remains lost in his musings. This peace, however, is a direct result of the sheer terror he now inspires. Having overdone it in the duel, the other students don't dare approach him, visibly flinching and scrambling out of his path as he walks by. Walking alone down the path, he considers that avoiding destruction flags should be a lucky thing, yet he can't help but feel a pang of loneliness. Meanwhile, at a lunch table, Shiria invites Irina and other girls to eat with her. She then looks around, noticing Alba's absence and wondering where he is. Another girl remarks that he's being mean by not joining them. While Shiria socialized elsewhere, Alba's isolation continued. Lying on the grass, his expression is troubled as he overhears other students gossiping. They label him a delinquent for eating lunch alone and then napping, remarking that he hasn't changed at all. He reflects on his solitary meal, recalling the game's logic. Sharing lunch with a heroine is a mandatory event to increase their affection. A system-like notification even appears in his mind, confirming that Shiria's affection level has already risen. As he contemplates this, A young woman's voice interrupts his thoughts. She stands over him, timidly asking if she might join him for lunch. Lying on the ground, Alba stares up at her, his face a mask of pure shock. The girl offers a gentle smile, holding a small, decoratively wrapped lunch bag. She formally thanks him for his help on a previous occasion. He recognizes her from a past encounter as she introduces herself. Her name is Mina. She explains that she was surprised to learn that the Alsama from the duel was a first-year student at the same academy. As she speaks, she shyly extends the wrapped lunch towards him. Mina elaborates, her expression earnest. She wanted to express her gratitude, so she prepared a bento for him and asked that he please eat it if he would like. His mind reels at the offer. He instantly recognizes the situation as a lunch event, a key moment from the game's progression. He stammers, completely flustered by this unexpected development. He struggles to place her within the game's narrative. He frantically searches his memory, realizing that a character named Mina is not among the main heroines. He concludes she must be a side character. Seeing his hesitation, Mina misinterprets it as rejection and begins to apologize, thinking she is being a bother. Snapping out of his internal analysis, Alba accepts the offered lunch. He tells her that if that's the case, he'll take it, and offers a simple, direct thank you. He smiles warmly at Mina, assuring her he'll gladly accept her offer. Internally, he confirms that there should be no problem with eating the lunch she prepared. They find a spot to eat together on a stone bench. As Alba takes a bite, he compliments the food. Mina is overjoyed. He then tells her to drop the formal address, as they are classmates, but cautions her that associating with him might bring her unwanted negative attention. Confused, Mina asks why that would be the case. She looks at him with determination, stating that this was her decision. She declares that she doesn't care at all about what others might think. Her resolve strikes a chord with him. Clenching his fist, he promises that he will, of course, do everything in his power to help her. A shadow falls over them. Looking up, Alba is startled to see Shiria standing there, her hands on her hips. With a strained tone, she remarks on how much fun he seems to be having, pointedly noting that he is having lunch with someone other than her. He quickly tries to defuse the situation, insisting it's a misunderstanding and he wasn't trying to flirt with Mina. Overwhelmed by the sudden tension, Mina bows hastily, excuses herself, and announces she is returning to the classroom. As Mina walks away, she glances back over her shoulder at Shiria, who watches her departure with an unreadable expression. Alba stands by, caught in the middle of the silent, tense standoff. The moment Mina is gone, Shiria's expression darkens, her eyes completely shadowed by her bangs. A single thought consumes her. That person, the saint. Attempting to clear the air, he explains to Shiria that Mina is the same girl he had mentioned helping in town, the one he saved from the runaway horse. Later, while walking with Irina and Lily, Alba recalls that Irina was aware of Mina's family, the Rupika barony. He connects the dots, realizing this means Mina will also participate in the upcoming event. A sense of dread washes over him as he understands that the main scenario is finally beginning. He knew exactly what this was, the first major event of the game Clear Now Fantasy. It was framed as a simple school field trip, with the academy administrator cheerfully announcing his wish for the students to deepen their bonds with their classmates. This trip, a mission to gather medicinal herbs in the Nerve Forest, was actually a tutorial. It was designed to teach the player how to fight monsters, starting with the appearance of simple slimes. But its true purpose was far more significant. Depending on the choices made, this event was a chance to deepen bonds with the heroines, a critical step that could set a flag and lead directly toward the path of ruin. As the field trip to the Nerve Forest officially began, Alice voiced her apprehension about fighting monsters. Walby, however, confidently dismissed her fears, assuring her it would be fine since they would only encounter weak creatures. The students ventured into the forest, its landscape marked by towering, craggy rock formations. Following their teacher, the academy administrator waved for everyone to keep up. Alice, her earlier fear gone, cheered that there was no way their teacher would lose to any monsters. Alba, however, knew the truth. The teacher's cheerful facade would soon vanish, as the coming event would plunge him into a situation where smiling was impossible. Within the game, 4 choices would present themselves. The first choice, join Shiria in rescuing and treating the other students, her own heart pounding with nervous excitement. The second, fight alongside Irina against the monsters, a trial by fire with no prior training. And the third, go to the aid of the protagonist's childhood friend, Alice, who would get separated from the group and wander deeper into the forest. She found herself feeling bored, trying and failing to recall the 4th person Alba had mentioned. She wondered what it could have been. Meanwhile, Alba stood apart, his mind racing. He knew that the game's original protagonist, Yuri's, would inevitably appear within one of these 4 scenarios. The choice he himself had to make was critical. As he contemplated his options, the other students enjoyed the field trip, blissfully unaware of the impending danger. Irina practiced her sword swings against small, harmless creatures, while Shiria and Alice explored the forest flora. Shiria, clad in a dark, hooded cloak, examined a plant, while Alice and another student looked on with curiosity. Their peaceful exploration was interrupted by the academy administrator. He announced that they were about to enter the monster habitat and cautioned everyone to remain calm and not act rashly. However, A flicker of confusion crossed his face as he sensed a strange presence, something that felt wrong. His unease was immediately justified. A horde of monstrous creatures, led by a roaring, ape-like beast, burst from the trees. The administrator's face contorted in terror as he recognized the event for what it was, a stampede. The stampede descended upon the students in an instant. One was immediately swatted aside by a monster's attack. Lily noted the strange, unsettling presence in the air, while Irina, drawing her sword, shouted for everyone to remain calm. Her words were lost in the ensuing panic as students screamed and fled. The administrator desperately ordered everyone to fall back. Amidst the chaos, Alice looked around frantically, calling out for Yuri's, who was nowhere to be found. As the chaos erupted around him, Alba stood his ground, his expression hardening with grim resolve. He knew this was it. The event had begun. Without warning, a battle event commences, a great monster rampage. As a horde of grotesque creatures surrounds the students, the academy administrator shouts for everyone to remain calm and head for the forest's exit, declaring that he will act as a decoy. Alba immediately understands that his actions during this event will alter his affinity with the heroines. As he contemplates this, Irina takes command, ordering a startled Shiria to stay behind her. Shiria meekly agrees. He knows that becoming closer to the heroines will only bring him nearer to his own fated destruction, a future he is desperate to avoid. The students begin their frantic escape from the encroaching monsters. The terror of the situation is etched onto the faces of Alice, Irina, Lily, and Shiria as they flee for their lives. A memory of the original story surfaces in Alba's mind. His villainous counterpart would have taken the same action of abandoning everyone to save himself. He scoffs internally, disgusted by the thought. Rejecting that path, he decides to escape from this place, but not by abandoning his classmates. He runs alongside them, determined to see everyone to safety. As the group sprints through the woods, a massive, bear-like beast with a spiky mane erupts from the trees, roaring as it lunges toward the students at the back of the formation. The creature closes in, its fangs bared. Separated from the others, Shiria screams in terror, crying out for Alba and asking where he is as the monster bears down on her and the administrator. In answer to her plea, a blinding flash of power erupts from Alba's outstretched hand, striking the beast head-on. "Here I am," he declares calmly. Shiria stares, her expression a mixture of awe and relief as she whispers his name. He glances back, a fierce, determined grin spreading across his face. He stands among the other students as Shiria thanks him, though her expression is troubled. She urges him to hurry and escape the forest, but he remains silent. Kneeling beside an injured Walby, Shiria declares that she will stay behind. She admits her fear, but explains that her power can help everyone. Alba looks on, murmuring her name. She looks up at him, her eyes filled with conviction, and pleads for him to help everyone, stating her complete faith in his abilities. He looks down, acknowledging her words. In that moment, he realizes that abstract concepts like logic or destruction flags are irrelevant compared to the present crisis. A confident smile spreads across his face as he comes to a decision. The thought of only saving himself, he concludes, is just uncool. As if spurred by his resolve, Irina Belugia leaps into the fray, slicing through a mantis-like monster. Shiria cries out for Alba to be careful, but Irina coolly tells her to leave it to her. She shouts for the others to escape quickly while she holds the line, fending off another beast. As the other students retreat with thanks, a massive pillar of light erupts from Alba's position behind them. After the flash subsides, Irina turns to find Alba kneeling, catching his breath. She asks if he is all right, and he confidently tells her not to underestimate him. He gets to his feet and informs Irina that he is heading deeper into the forest, entrusting the area to her. He warns her to stay vigilant. She agrees, and they wish each other well. Moving forward, Alba unleashes another devastating blast of light, clearing his path of monsters. He knows this event only ends by defeating the boss in the deepest part of Neve Forest, but something about the monsters he's facing gives him pause. He reflects on the discrepancy. This was supposed to be a beginner's event with only weak monsters. Yet, powerful mid-game creatures are now mixed in. A grim smile forms as he wonders if this deviation from the original scenario is a direct result of his own altered actions. In the deepest part of the forest, the event's boss revealed itself. A monstrous, three-headed demonic beast, the Chimera. As he confronted it, Alba understood with grim certainty that the boss, like the other monsters, had been altered and was far more powerful than it should be. He grit his teeth, recognizing the Chimera and recalling the difficult fight it presented in the original game's story. This was no tutorial-level threat. His thoughts were suddenly shattered by a desperate cry for help. His head snapped toward the sound. The Chimera had already captured someone, a young woman, calling out to him as she was ensnared by the beast's serpentine tail. The captive, with a burst of panicked energy, introduced herself as Alice. She quickly realized the absurdity of introductions at a time like this, and simply screamed for him to save her. This was Alice, known as the childhood friend of the world's intended protagonist, Yuri's, and one of its heroines. She explained that she had gotten lost in the forest before being caught. Seeing her in danger, Alba launched himself forward, unleashing a bolt of crackling energy directly at the beast. His attack struck the chimera's goat head in a brilliant flash, momentarily halting its attention. As the lion head lunged in retaliation, another figure suddenly appeared, parrying the blow. It was Yuri's, the world's hero. He stared in shock, crying out that his own powerful attack had no effect. From her precarious position, Alice shouted a warning to Alba that the chimera was on the verge of evolving. Startled by the combined assault, the beast turned and fled deeper into the woods, carrying Alice with it. The nature of the chimera is a complex one, defined by two distinct combat patterns. In one state, it is highly resistant to magic, but vulnerable to physical strikes. In its other state, the opposite is true. It is resistant to physical force, but weak against magical assaults. This realization struck Alba with force. It was the reason he had struggled so much against the beast. From her vantage point, Alice shouted her own analysis. She reasoned that since Alba was using lightning magic, the chimera must currently be in its magic-resistant state. She recalled that in the game, defeating it required the coordinated efforts of different types of fighters, like Shiria with magic and Irina with a sword. As if to prove her point, the hero Yuri's lunged forward, his sword unleashing a powerful physical strike against the creature. Seeing this, Alba formulated a plan. He would use magic to close the distance instantly, then cancel the spell to deliver a purely physical attack. He moved in a blur, his fist connecting squarely with the chimera's lion head. The blow, however, was utterly ineffective. The beast scoffed that such an ordinary punch was useless, as Alba was thrown backward by the sheer resilience of his foe. Even Yuri's mighty assault was stopped cold, his blade held at bay by the combined might of the chimera's heads. Alba staggered, realizing with dawning horror that he was powerless with his bare hands. He had no weapon. From nearby, Alice yelled encouragement, telling him to try harder. He retorted that she was in no position to talk, just as the chimera's snake tail lashed out. In that moment of distraction, a new horror emerged. A massive, bipedal reptilian monster lunged from the shadows, its jaws closing around a screaming Alice. Alba could only shout her name in despair as she cried for help. She screams as the massive serpent's coils constrict around her, its fanged maw gaping wide. From a short distance, Alba watches, frozen in horror. Behind him, the goat-headed chimera continues its rampage, momentarily ignored in the face of this new crisis. In a flash, the crisis is averted. Yuri's suddenly appears, holding the now-safe Alice in his arms, the reptilian beast already defeated in the background. He cries out her name, his voice a mixture of relief and concern. She looks up at him, her appearance inexplicably altered, now wearing glasses. She tells him she had faith he would come to her rescue. Yuri smiles gently, assuring her that, of course, he would. While Yuri's and Alice share a moment, Alba is left to face the primary threat alone. The chimera, a monstrous fusion of lion and goat, turns its attention towards him. He charges, thrusting his sword at the creature's leonine head, but the blade glances off with a dull clang, completely ineffective. Watching this, Yuri's expression hardens. His eyes narrow with cold resolve as he internally vows that he will not forgive anyone who harms what is precious to him. He then leaps into the fray, his sword glowing with a faint light. Alba can only watch in awe, stunned by the sheer power on display and recognizing it as the strength of the world's true protagonist. Noticing the ineffectual attack, Alice provides crucial intelligence. She explains that the chimera can alter its weak point. It was vulnerable to physical attacks, but no longer. The implication dawns on Alba. It must now be weak to magic. Armed with this new knowledge, he immediately puts it to use, unleashing a massive blast of magical energy that engulfs the chimera. His powerful magic erupts in a blinding flash of light, striking the chimera head-on. The beast bellows in agony as the raw energy tears into it. The barrage continues, with lances of pure energy piercing the monster's hide, pinning it in place as it struggles against the overwhelming assault. As the light subsides, it reveals a massive wall of crystalline magic encasing the beast. Alba stands before his handiwork, but his attention is broken by a voice from behind. He recognizes the newcomer, thinking to himself that this is the one person he absolutely did not want to get involved with. The man, Yuri's, crosses his arms and offers his help, stating that it's for the sake of ending this event quickly. Alba looks on, startled, as he addresses him by name. From the sidelines, Alice watches with delight, sensing a positive turn of events. Before Alba and Yuri's stands a monstrous chimera, a terrifying fusion of a lion and a goat, which lets out a deafening roar. Yuri's turns to his companion, asking for the plan. Alba casually replies that if Yuri's is going to call him by name, he should just use Al. In response to the casual remark, Yuri's clarifies that there is no complex strategy. Their only course of action is to fight. Already diegris. Thus, the unlikely pairing, the world's prophesied hero and the reincarnated villain, begins their battle. With their simple understanding reached, Yuri's yells for Al to unleash his power and blast the creature away. He charges forward, sword at the ready, as Al surges with crackling energy beside him. As they close the distance, Al clicks his tongue in annoyance, realizing the chimera is reinforcing itself with magic. He unleashes a torrent of power, striking the beast head-on and forcing a pained roar from its maw. The initial blast creates an opening. Yuri's vaults over the creature's head, his sword arcing down for a strike. From the ground, Al urges him on, shouting for him to press the advantage. From a distance, Alice watches the coordinated assault. Watching from a safe distance, Alice analyzes the fight with a keen eye. She acknowledges that the Chimera is a formidable opponent, but she sees the flaw in its defense. If it blocks Yuri's sword, Ael's magic finds its mark. If it braces for Ael's magic, Yuri's blade will cut it down. She realizes with awe that these two, working in perfect, destructive harmony, are an incredible force. Their combined might is undeniable. Yuri's stands poised, a testament to their power, forming one half of what is clearly the strongest duo among the first-year students. He glances towards his partner, a look of respect on his face. He internally acknowledges the incredible nature of Ael's power, a high-level magic that allows him to become lightning itself, a truly fearsome talent. As if summoned by this thought, an immense and violent explosion of pure energy erupts from Ael's position, consuming everything in a blinding flash. He watched Yuri's, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. The boy's movements and swordsmanship were incredible. He had even managed to keep up with Alba's speed, a truly frightening opponent. As he processed this, Alice jumped for joy, thanking him profusely. Alba acknowledged Yuri's, who simply waved it off, stating that thanks were unnecessary. Another girl with glasses bowed, also expressing her gratitude for Alice's rescue. Alba noted her habit of sizing up anyone who seemed strong, thinking she acted like a delinquent. Yuri's, meanwhile, seemed to have a moment of realization. Prompted by this, Yuri's asked how Alba knew his name. Alice quickly explained that Yuri's was the strongest man from their village, and Yuri's confirmed they were childhood friends. Alba internally connected the dots, recognizing this as their established backstory. Yuri's then clarified his relationship with Alice, explaining that she was like a little sister to him. The girl with glasses pouted at the little sister comment, playfully declaring she'd make a better older sister. Watching the exchange, Alba quietly mused that Yuri's seemed to have his hands full. Deciding to take his leave, Alba told the group to head back. He reminded them that they were in the Finra group while he was in the Unicorn group, and that he would be returning alone. Yuri's and Alice immediately protested, suggesting they travel together, but Alba vehemently refused. He shouted that he hated being around people and wanted nothing more to do with them, calling them destruction flags. Yuri's quietly conceded. Despite the harsh words, Yuri's offered a brilliant smile, promising he would never forget this favor and bidding him farewell. The genuine warmth of the expression caught Alba off guard, and he silently pleaded for him to stop. As he walked away from the others, a single, grim thought dominated his mind. Their destiny was to be rivals, fated to kill one another. He let out a quiet sigh, reflecting on the encounter. If only Yuri's were a more detestable person, this fated rivalry would be so much simpler. Standing over the corpse of the defeated Chimera, a sudden feeling of being watched washed over him. His gaze snapped toward a distant tree. "You were watching, weren't you?" he called out into the clearing. "Our fight." He explained that hiding was useless. While in his lightning state, his senses were heightened, allowing him to feel nearby presences with pinpoint accuracy, as if his antennae were tingling. His eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Show yourself," he demanded, admitting to himself that he was surprised by this unexpected observer. As if in response, a cloaking spell shattered like glass, revealing a young woman. She was stunned, realizing her invisible camouflage had been pierced. This boy, could he be? The woman composed herself, and Alba instantly recognized her as one of the game's main heroines. "Hello, Al," she said calmly. "My name is Lily." Alba was flustered, asking how she knew his name. Lily explained that after his flashy duel, there wasn't a single first-year student who didn't know him. The mention of the duel sent a wave of regret through Alba, who internally cursed his rival, Walby, for causing all this unwanted attention. Regaining his composure, he asked Lily why she was hiding. She replied simply that she had arrived while they were already fighting and had merely been observing. Lily then pointed past him, her attention not on him at all. "No, that," she clarified, her gaze fixed on the beast's corpse. "The Chimera?" Alba turned, confused by her specific interest. He watches in disbelief as the massive corpse of the Chimera dissolves into nothing, its form flickering out of existence. "What?" he cries out, utterly stunned. Beside him, Lily remains impassive. In moments, the beast is gone without a trace, leaving only the two students standing on the barren rock as the word vanished echoes in the air. As he struggles to comprehend, Lily provides an explanation. She calmly states that the Chimera was a fabricated organism, a concept from magicology's cross-dimensional phenomenon theory, and it vanished because the magic sustaining it was gone. Alba can only listen, confused. She elaborates on a fundamental rule of their world. While one can create fire through physical means like friction, a natural process, it is impossible to create it from nothing using magic. Such an act would be a violation of the world's inherent laws. He counters her, recalling from his studies that magic is supposed to be the act of harmonizing oneself with the forces of nature. Lily agrees that this is how one generates magic power, but clarifies that this power is merely the key. It is used to interfere with the forces of a separate world. The revelation stuns Alba. The process is one of interference. Magic power, born from harmony with one's own world, is used to reach into another world and pull forth a phenomenon, such as fire, fabricating it into existence. Applying this theory, Lily explains that someone used special magic to manifest a chimera from another world into theirs. It was a fabricated, fake beast. A horrifying thought strikes Alba. If that's true, then the caster must have been targeting them. Lily confirms his suspicion. Meanwhile, observing from a high cliff, two cloaked figures watch the students below. One, a woman with a confident smirk, remarks her surprise that a first year was capable of killing a chimera, noting that the students of Cleana Academy are quite capable. Her companion, completely hidden within a dark cloak, replies that this is to be expected. Cleana Academy, they state, is one of the three great authorities, on par with the royal family and the church. The woman, identified as Yuru, sighs that she is now out of magic power and will be unable to use her spells for some time. She dismisses it as unavoidable. She decided they would retreat for the day, noting that another chance would surely present itself. From their hidden vantage point, they watched as Alba and Lily stood in the now quiet clearing. Her cloaked companion, addressing her as Yuru, questioned the decision, asking why she didn't handle the matter herself. Yuru simply smiled, explaining that her particular power isn't suited for dealing with groups, a response her companion met with a dismissive grunt. Meanwhile, unaware of his observers, Alba's thoughts turned to the nature of their attacker. He contemplated the existence of a magic user who creates beasts, wondering if this new threat was somehow connected to his own destruction flags. His resolve hardened as he stared out at the desolate landscape, vowing internally that he would show no mercy to anyone who became his enemy. With that internal declaration made, he turned to Lily, stating that since the chimera was gone, the forest should be safe. As he announced his intention to return to the others, Lily stopped him, asking who had taught him magic. He replied that he was self-taught, an answer that clearly intrigued her. Her curiosity solidified into a direct statement. With a small smile, she openly declared, "I've taken an interest in you." Her words sent a jolt of shock through Alba. He instantly realized this was the key event meant to deepen his bond with Lily. Flustered, he simply bid her farewell and began to walk away. As he walked, his mind raced, recalling the original sequence of events from the game. He was supposed to engage in rescue activities with Shiria, fight alongside Irina, save Alice from a monster, and finally, demonstrate his magical power to Lily to capture her interest. He compared that intended path to the current reality and came to a horrifying conclusion. He had somehow managed to advance the destruction flag with every single heroine all at once. Despite his internal panic, he looked back to see the rest of his classmates running towards him, safe and sound. A small sense of relief cut through his worry as he thought that, at the very least, everyone was unharmed. In his office, the cat-like being known as Kate Sith delivers his report with a pleased flourish. He confirms that despite the attack by imitation magical beasts, not a single person was sacrificed. His report is received by the Academy administrator, who stands gazing out over the school grounds. The administrator thanks him, addressing him as Tame, and begins to ponder the enemy's true intentions, whether the first-year students were the real target or if there was another objective. As he ponders, the very enemies he was considering appear before him. The administrator identifies the unknown assailants, while the woman with two-toned hair, Yu, coolly asks just who he might be, a hint of curiosity in her voice. Her face, split by stark black and white hair, twists into a confident, predatory smirk. Her mismatched eyes gleam, holding no fear, only a chilling amusement. This brazen challenge is met not with fear, but with a surge of protective resolve. The administrator's thoughts, or perhaps the very spirit of the institution, center on its students, on Alba, Shiria, Irina, Alice, and Lily. A powerful declaration echoes, "Do not underestimate our academy." In the aftermath of the forest incident, the night captain, Roy Irija, receives a report confirming that imitation monsters had attacked. He gives a sharp command for his men to search the entire forest. His gaze darkens as he internally questions if the first-year students were the intended target. Meanwhile, the students arrive at their lodging. The academy administrator greets the weary group, announcing that they will be staying as planned. He gestures toward a traditional inn, explaining that it is a magic bath that heals injuries and illnesses and encourages them to rest and recuperate. Gathered together, the students discuss the strange turn of events. Alice asks Alba about the incident, since the school framed it as a lesson. Shiria wonders aloud if the monster attack was just a practical exercise, though she seemed frightened. Alba internally confirms that the monsters were created by the academy, but notes that Irina's presence during the fight was not part of the plan. Nearby, Lily observes, concluding that while she knows the truth, it's best to keep it quiet to avoid panic, believing this to be the academy's official stance. Lily muses that other students have likely figured things out as well. At that moment, a flustered Shiria approaches Alba. She apologizes profusely, admitting she doesn't fully understand what's happening, but promising to explain things to him properly later. Alba and Irina watch her, while Alice looks on in confusion. Later, inside a tatami-matted room, Alba lies face down on the floor. When a classmate asks what he's doing, he laughs and explains he's savoring the feeling of the tatami, calling it the essence of wa. His friend can only comment on how strange he is. His classmates, getting hungry, decide to eat after bathing and make plans to head to the baths. One of them jokingly warns Alba not to peek into the women's bath. The seemingly innocent jest triggers a sudden, jolting realization in Alba's mind. He recalls a specific game mechanic, a hidden event in Cleana fantasy known as the women's bath peeking event. His memory presents it like a system prompt, offering a clear choice: peek or don't peek. The consequences of that choice flash through his mind. While peeking would allow him to see the heroines, it would cause their affection level to drop to -1, making any future romance with them impossible. He knows that to properly complete the game, this is a choice one must never make. But a new thought takes root. What if he doesn't want to raise their affection? He swallows, considering the possibility. Could this be the key to escaping his ruined flags? Meanwhile, unaware of Alba's dilemma, the young women relax in the open-air bath. Irina thinks about how her large chest gets in the way of her sword fighting. Alice admires her figure, while Shiria simply sighs in contentment, enjoying the warm water. She relaxed in the hot spring, where Irina casually mentioned that she was once Alba's fiancée. A little taken aback, Shiria asked what their relationship was like now, and what Irina thought of Alba. Meanwhile, in the men's bath, Alba shot to his feet with a loud splash. His classmates looked on in confusion as he wrestled with his decision. He didn't want to peek, but he felt it was the only way to avoid the ruined flags he so desperately feared. His internal turmoil was cut short as Yuri's, also in the bath, called out to him, asking why he was just standing there looking dazed. He flinched at Yuri's sharp tone, who asked what was wrong with his expression. Seeing the official protagonist before him, Alba decided he couldn't bring himself to do something so dishonorable. He internally conceded that it was good timing, as he couldn't do something so uncool. Back in the women's bath, Irina continued her questioning, asking Shiria directly if she was in love with Alba, given that they lived together. Flustered, Shiria stammered, denying that it was anything like that. She clarified, her cheeks flushing, that she sees Alba as an incredible person worthy of deep respect. She added that, like Irina, she's immensely grateful to him for having saved her. Suddenly, another girl with her hair in buns popped up from the water, cheerfully exclaiming that she, too, had been saved by Alba. Both Irina and Shiria looked at the newcomer in surprise. The girl introduced herself as Alice from the Fenrir class, pleased to finally meet them. She identified Irina Bligia and Shiria Margaret, and insisted they call her by her first name, promising to do the same. Their conversation turned to the recent attack. Alice confirmed that Alba had saved her from the Chimera, and that once the main beast was defeated, all the other monsters disappeared. Shiria couldn't help but remark on how truly strong he is. Irina's expression grew grim as she considered the implications. She theorized that someone had intentionally targeted the students using manufacture monsters. The thought was frightening, and Alice, looking intently at a worried Shiria, remarked on her status as the saintess. Her serious mood vanished in an instant. With a playful splash, Irina lunged, wrapping her arms around Shiria from behind and declaring she could hold back no longer. Shiria let out a startled cry. She reveled in the moment, expressing her bliss at being able to touch the saintess. A flustered Shiria protested to Alice that touching her chest wasn't necessary. Alice, finding Irina odd, simply pointed out that Shiria had been touching her chest just moments before. The playful shrieks carried over the wall to the men's bath. A sudden, piercing scream startled Alba, who mistook the sound for genuine terror. Back in the women's bath, the girls paused, surprised by the sudden commotion from the other side. Reacting to the noise, Alice immediately shouted out, playfully accusing Alba of being a pervert. She then cheekily wondered aloud if he was completely exposed, much to Shiria's shock and Irina's annoyance. He, however, completely misunderstood the situation. Believing the scream he heard was real and that an intruder was present, Alba furiously unleashed a powerful electric discharge into the water, roaring about a shameless pervert. The powerful discharge coursed through the hot spring, electrocuting every male student in the water, including Alba himself. From the edge of the bath, Yuri's drilly remarked that getting struck by lightning in a hot spring was certainly an experience. Later that night, a weary Alba lay recovering. He grimaced, wondering if this disastrous outcome could still be considered a success in his mission to avoid the peaking event. His private reflections were soon interrupted. Now dressed in yukatas, the group reconvened. Alice apologized for shouting, though Yuri's dismissed it, calling her a troublesome woman. Alice then turned to Alba, playfully asking him what was wrong. She then accused him of being a pervert who saw her chest, which he vehemently denied. Irina demanded he commit seppuku. Alba noted with grim satisfaction that his favorability had dropped, a sad but desired outcome. Confused by their fervor, Yuri's asked why the saintess was so special to them. Yuri's question prompted an explanation. A young woman with glasses clarified that in their home village, they were raised with the teachings of the goddess. The legacy of the hero who protected her is strong there, making the Saintess an incredibly important figure to them all. He introduces himself to the group as Yuri's, Alice's childhood friend, asking everyone to get along. Shiria and Irina follow suit with their own introductions. Alba watches from the side, a thought crossing his mind. Yuri's is the true protagonist of this story. Following the introductions, the girl with glasses suggests to Yuri's that he can drop the formal language with Shiria, as they are all classmates. Alice chimes in, agreeing with Shiria's earlier sentiment. A flustered Shiria concedes, while Alba observes the friendly exchange with a detached expression. As the group continues their light-hearted conversation, Alba abruptly announces that it's time for dinner and turns to leave on his own. Yuri's calls out for him to wait, but Alba continues walking, his face set with grim determination. He clenches his fist, a bitter realization hardening his features. He is not the protagonist, he is the villain. A pang of jealousy towards Yuri strikes him, and he internally scolds himself for the petty feeling. Later, during a lavish dinner, Alba eats with unrestrained enthusiasm while the others enjoy their meal more calmly. He breaks the silence to ask if anyone has seen Mina, remembering that as a first-year student, she should be at the event. Yuri's and Alice confirm they saw the young girl earlier in the day. His question prompts a grave expression from Irina. She turns to the group, explaining that she just received unbelievable news from her father. Sensing the gravity, Alba asks what she knows. Irina's voice is heavy as she begins to reveal the fate of the head of the Rupakar family, Mina's parents. She delivers the devastating news with a single, chilling word. They were murdered. The scene shifts to a private room where, at that very moment, Mina is kneeling beside her bed, her small frame racked with inconsolable sobs. Her tear-filled gaze falls upon a framed photograph on her nightstand, a portrait of a happy time with her smiling parents. Over and over, she questions why something so terrible had to happen. Overwhelmed by grief, she collapses, her face buried in the bedding as she desperately cries out for someone, anyone, to help. Outside, the crescent moon hangs silently in a dark night sky. The somber news hangs heavy in the air. While Alba and Shiria listen with grim expressions, Irina confirms that the culprit behind the murder of Mina's parents has not yet been caught. His thoughts, however, are focused entirely on the grieving girl. Her name, Mina, echoes in his mind. He processes this through the lens of his past life, recalling that Mina was just a minor character in the game Clear Enough Fantasy, someone who shouldn't be involved in the main plot. A cold, selfish worry grips him. Could the death of her parents somehow affect his own prophesied downfall? His destruction flag? Beside him, Shiria's voice is soft but filled with a deep sadness. She murmurs that death is too heavy a burden for one person to bear alone. Her words cut through his internal panic. He looks at her profile, recognizing the profound kindness forged from witnessing the many deaths and sacrifices made to protect the saint. Irina quietly agrees with Shiria's sentiment. Moved, Alba realizes Shiria is absolutely right. A memory of promising to help Mina as a friend flashes through his mind. Casting aside all thoughts of game mechanics and personal doom, a fierce determination settles over him. He declares that destruction flags don't matter. He will become the strength Mina needs. Some time ago, Alba Irija was lost in a moment of pure bliss, his mind blissfully empty as he enjoyed a rare period of peace. His reverie is shattered when a piece of chalk strikes him squarely on the head. A teacher with long, braided hair reminds him that he is in the middle of class. Beside him, Shiria apologizes for his lack of focus. Despite such minor disruptions, his school life has remained peaceful. It has been a month since the off-campus training. It is now June. In the world of Furiana fantasy, the year is 12 months long, with 4 distinct seasons, much like the Japan of his previous life. In this world, there are many grand paths a protagonist might take. Becoming a hero who deciphers ancient mysteries, a great sage seeking legendary magic, a merchant king through commerce, or an adventurer king through guild exploits. But Alba has no interest in those paths for himself. Instead, he watches from a distance as the story's true protagonist, Yuri's, walks with the heroines, Shiria and Irina. They greet each other warmly, and Alba reaffirms his own mission, to ensure their love stories blossom. Having confirmed their progress, he turns and walks away. He reflects that as the reincarnated Alba Irija, he has no intention of aiming for any of those grand destinies. As he descends a staircase, his thoughts turn to his own designated role. No matter what event unfolds, he is fated to become the protagonist's villain. His mind flashes to his brother, Roy, a perfect example of the antagonistic forces he must embody. He knows that in the end, he will always. Before he can finish the grim thought, a voice calls out his name, Al. Startled, Alba turns, his brooding expression replaced with shock. He finds Yuri standing there, asking what he's doing in such a place. As Yuri speaks, Alba's internal monologue reaches its inevitable conclusion. The villain is destroyed by the protagonist's hand. He stood stoically as Yuri's, surrounded by admiring female students, was praised for his performance. Yuri's announced that he had placed first in the Fenrir class practical test. An incredible feat. With a humble smile, Yuri's brushed it off as a stroke of luck. The girls reacted with excitement. Irina suggested they should have a sparring match sometime. Shiria lamented that her own sword skills were completely useless in comparison. Another girl, with pigtails and glasses, beamed, declaring that as a childhood friend, she was very proud of Yuri's. Through all the cheerful chatter, Alba's expression remained flat and unimpressed. He turned and walked away, giving a dismissive wave. He remarked that while it was good for Yuri's, he himself had been completely useless, and bid them farewell. As he departed, Yuri's wondered aloud if his talk had sounded like boasting and upset Alba. Shiria reassured him, explaining that Alba always prefers to be alone. The girl with glasses teased that it wasn't because Shiria was only praising Yuri's, making him jealous. The young man, however, felt a persistent gaze on his back. He glanced over his shoulder to see Shiria watching him with a gentle smile, causing him to internally question if she was feeling jealous. Shiria's lingering look did not go unnoticed. Irina commented on it, prompting the girl with glasses to call her harsh. Yuri's, confused, asked Irina what was wrong. Irina simply watched Shiria, thinking to herself that if her feelings were indeed jealousy, it was quite childish. Her thoughts drifted, wondering if this was perhaps about Al. Meanwhile, Alba had found a quiet place to rest. He reaffirmed his plan to avoid the main characters at all costs and live a solitary life, just as he had when he was secluded in the mountains. Just then, his solitude was broken by Yuri's, who called down to him, asking if he was napping again. Startled, he sat up, but it wasn't Yuri's standing before him. A young woman with long, light hair looked down at him, addressing him familiarly as Alcuin. It was Mina. He is greeted by the young girl, Mina, who notes that it has been some time since they last saw each other. She is known as a minor, or mob, character within the world's narrative. She asks if he would like to share a meal, an offer he readily accepts. As they eat, he laughs without reservation, a smear of food on his cheek, clearly enjoying the simple meal and her company. He reflects internally that it is precisely because of her status as a minor figure that he feels he can speak with her so freely. She notices the food on his face and hands him a cloth to wipe it clean. Their conversation takes a more serious turn as they sit together. Mina mentions that she heard about what happened with his parents, and she earnestly tells him that she wants to be a source of strength for him. He looks down, quietly affirming that he heard her. She expresses her gratitude, stating she's glad she came to find him. As he looks up at her, a memory seems to surface, and he declares that this time, he will be the one to help her, just like in the past. His sudden declaration leaves Mina looking puzzled. Despite her confusion, she feels a sense of reassurance, believing that simply talking with Alba will surely lift her spirits. A warm, hopeful smile spreads across her face. The moment is interrupted by a familiar voice. Shiria calls out, relieved to have found Alba. Her eyes then fall upon his companion, and she recognizes her as Mina, offering a polite greeting, which Mina returns. She declares the timing perfect and extends an invitation to Mina to visit her home after their classes conclude. Alba looks on, surprised by the sudden offer. With a radiant, all-encompassing smile, Shiria enthusiastically suggests they should all have a party together. The suggestion hangs in the air, leaving both Alba and Mina momentarily stunned and confused by the sudden prospect of a party. He was met with a sudden, joyous roar from his friends, who, armed with party poppers and wide smiles, all shouted in unison, "Happy birthday, Al!" Stunned and breathless, Alba could only stare as the realization dawned on him. A birthday event had just been triggered. His mind flashed back to the very beginning. He recalled a prompt asking for his date of birth when he first entered this world, a detail he had long since forgotten. He understood now. In the original game, this event would have the heroines with high affection celebrate with the player. Had he been alone, it would have been a solitary affair. But instead, he saw the faces of Irina, Shiria, Lily, and Alice, all offering their congratulations. Having been reincarnated so suddenly, he had lived his new life completely unaware of his own birthday. The scene solidified around him in Shiria's home. She announced to him that today, June 6th, was his birthday. Alba was shocked to learn the date in this manner. Alice chimed in, calling him secretive for not telling them. Irina coolly stated that it was his own fault for keeping quiet. Yuri's gently admonished him, saying he should just be grateful they all gathered to celebrate. This prompted Alice to tease Irina, accusing her of acting distant despite knowing his birthday all along, which Irina flusteredly denied. Amidst the friendly banter, Mina formally introduced herself to the group as being from the Phoenix class. Yuri's and Alice warmly welcomed her. Irina then addressed Mina directly, stating that her family, the Belugas, were allies of the Rupakar family and that Mina should feel free to rely on them. Finally, Shiria also gave Mina a warm welcome. Alba watched the scene unfold, internally lamenting that this was happening just after he had resolved to avoid the main characters. Despite his intentions, they had prepared all of this for him. A cake, inscribed, "Happy Birthday ARU," was presented to the group. Shiria held the cake out to him, encouraging him to make a wish and blow out the candles. Looking at the peaceful moment, Alba thought to himself that it was nice to be immersed in such a normal, everyday event. He mentally addressed the goddess of fate, asking if, just for a little while, this was all right. As his friends watched with anticipation, Alba closed his eyes. His one wish, now and forever, was for peace. As he made his wish, Irina looked on with a small, satisfied smile. The young swordswoman smiles, content after the celebration, as do Yuri's and a laughing Alice. The joyful atmosphere is infectious. Shiria playfully places a small crown on Alba's head, while Mina claps with delight. For Alba, surrounded by his friends, this simple moment is enough to make him feel truly alive. As the group begins to disperse, Irina announces that she and Yuri's will be heading back toward the academy dorms. Alice chimes in, waving a cheerful goodbye to Alba, Shiria, and Mina, telling them she'll see them later. With the others gone, Alba turns his attention to Mina, insisting he'll walk her home. He internally notes that because of the situation with her parents, it's best to be cautious, and they set off together. As they walk, Alba addresses Lily and Alice, who are watching them. He states plainly that he's kind to everyone, not just Shiria, so there's no reason for jealousy. The girls are taken aback by his directness as Alba, Shiria, and Mina continue on their way. After parting ways with the others, Alba and Shiria stand on a street corner. Alba announces it's time to go, but Shiria looks back at him, puzzled. Her confusion prompts Alba to ask about her strange smile. He then declares that he can't just let her go home alone. As her self-appointed bodyguard, it's his duty to see her safely there. Shiria looks up at him, a gentle smile forming. As the three of them walk together, Mina turns to Shiria with a kind offer. She tells Shiria that she is welcome to come and play at her house anytime. Alba looks pleased, agreeing that it's a reassuring idea. Shiria is visibly moved. She earnestly tells them that if they're ever in trouble, she will do anything in her power to help. However, her gaze seems to be directed past Alba and towards Mina, leaving Alba momentarily confused. Her expression hardens with quiet determination, her lips pressed together in a firm line. A resolve has clearly settled within her. They arrive before a grand, gated mansion. Shiria informs them that this is her home, politely declining any further assistance and thanking them both. Acknowledging this, Alba bids her farewell for the night. He watches as Mina and Shiria wave goodbye. He notes to himself that Mina seemed to want to say something more, a thought he files away as they part ways for the night. As he and Shiria walk away, he reassures her that she can always ask him for help, because they're friends. Shiria quietly agrees. Suddenly, Alba's demeanor sharpens. He casts light up, flooding the dark street with a brilliant glow, explaining that the spell doesn't just provide light, it also allows him to sense suspicious presences. He demands that whoever is watching show themselves. The light erupts from him in a blinding flash. He leaps forward, shouting into the empty street for the hidden observer to reveal themselves, startling Mina and Shiria. Despite his challenge, the street appears deserted. Mina confirms that she sees no one, but Alba's eyes narrow. He senses that the presence he detected has simply vanished. From a rooftop, a cloaked figure dematerializes, impressed that an academy student could detect their invisible color camouflage. The figure muses that, just as Yora's associate had warned, these students are indeed formidable. The figure's face is revealed, a menacing visage with scars across its features and a strange symbol tattooed on its tongue. They cackle, anticipating that soon the young lady's magic for generating demonic beasts will be fully charged. They eagerly await the coming time of God slaying. Unaware of the specific threat but sensing the lingering malice, Alba clenches his fist in frustration, muttering about what a nuisance the person was. The unseen enemy's thoughts echo, dismissing him as a mere brat and mockingly telling him to enjoy his youth while it lasts. Beside him, Shiria looks on with concern. At Clear Inn Academy, one of the most important events of the year begins, the sports festival. Alba Irija watches as Shiria Margaret, acting as the first-year representative, stands before the student body. With a raised hand, she makes a solemn vow to compete with all the strength and spirit they have cultivated at the academy, promising a fair and honorable fight. Before the competition starts, students must align themselves with one of 3 teams, each offering different benefits. The Phoenix team promises great growth in magical power. The Fenrir team enhances physical strength and stamina, and the Unicorn team provides a balance between the two. A victory, it is said, will also increase the affection of a heroine. Having chosen the Unicorn team, Alba stands with his fellow members. He internally resolves that he has no intention of winning, seeking only to avoid triggering any flags that could lead to his destruction. His teammates, however, are another matter. Shiria and Irina are both present and visibly eager to compete. Their enthusiasm is palpable. Both Shiria and Irina declare their absolute intent to win. Irina, especially fiery, proclaims that she will claim victory in the name of House Belugia, as this is her very first sports festival. Alba is dismayed by their competitive spirit, while other students shout at him to get fired up as well. Meanwhile, the rival Fenrir team makes their presence known. Led by Yuri's and Alice, they confidently boast that victory belongs to them, flexing their muscles as a show of strength. They call out to the other competitors, telling them not to lose before they have a chance to face them. From the Phoenix team, a young girl named Mina steps forward. With a gentle expression, she addresses the other teams, politely wishing everyone a good match and asking them to be careful. Her polite greeting is met by Irina, who approaches her directly. Irina states that today, they are all rivals, and declares they should have a fair and square competition. Mina, slightly intimidated, quietly agrees. Shiria and Irina offer Mina encouragement, telling her to give it her all. Nearby, Yuri's remarks to Alba that the Phoenix team is composed of students with high magical power, warning him not to underestimate them. Mina, overhearing them, steals her resolve, thinking that she simply wants to make good memories of the day. Another member of the Phoenix team, a girl named Lily, watches the proceedings with a faint, knowing smile. Her gaze is fixed on someone, and she muses to herself, finding them deeply interesting and wondering what kind of magic they possess. As Lily walks away, leaving a soft chuckle in her wake, Yuri turns to Alba and calls her a strange girl. The event's announcer, a Kate Sith, declares that he will be handling the commentary. But Alba is lost in thought, struck by a sudden realization. A future where he ends up with Lily is also a distinct possibility. The Clearena Academy Sports Festival begins. The referee, a small cat-like creature, announces the first event for the first-year students, a foot race. He specifies that this is a test of pure physical strength, and the use of magic is strictly forbidden. On the starting line, Mina cheers for her friends, while Alice and Shiria exchange determined glances, ready to give their all. At the referee's signal, the race is on. The students, including a determined Shiria and Alice, surge forward as the crowd cheers wildly. A spectator remarks on Shiria's impressive speed, noting that she honed her running skills in the mountains alongside Yuri's. While his teammates compete earnestly, Alba sits casually on the sidelines, openly slacking. He reaffirms his goal to himself. Avoiding a destruction flag is far more important than winning the festival. Elsewhere, a frustrated Alice scans the area, shouting about his disappearance. After the physical contest, the referee announces the next event, a test of magic called the Great Rock Rolling. Each team must use their combined magical power to propel a massive boulder. As the magically animated rocks appear, Alice's frustration boils over as she continues to wonder where Alba has gone. Alba's location is revealed. He is casually having a meal, having transformed one of the large rocks into a makeshift table and chair. As the referee announces the next event will be a combat competition, Irina confronts Shiria, demanding to know where the idiot Alba is. A flustered Shiria can only stammer that he went to the restroom, while Lily observes the scene. The referee announces the chamber battle. He explains that the participants will use soft magic wands that only cause a numbing sensation, ensuring everyone's safety. Irina, taking charge, rallies her teammates, instructing them to follow her lead and push forward without fear. The students look on, ready for the fight. The mock battle begins. Students from all teams clash in a chaotic but harmless melee, their soft wands swinging through the air amidst the cheers of the crowd. Amidst the general chaos, a duel of a much higher caliber unfolds. Yuri's and Irina clash with incredible speed and intensity, their skills clearly a level above the other participants. Their wands lock together. Yuri's grits his teeth, astonished by the immense pressure behind Irina's strike. She, in turn, acknowledges his power, remarking that while his technique is unrefined, his raw, natural talent more than makes up for it. Watching the duel, Alba has a sudden realization. Yuri's fighting Irina on equal terms is a key event from the original story, one designed to raise her affection level. The thought stops him cold, and he inwardly questions his own use of the word original, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. He contemplates the flow of the original story he knows. The protagonist would win the heroine's affection, fight the villainous Alba to save her, and ultimately trigger Alba's own destruction. He internally rejects this path, vowing that he is different from the game's version of himself and will never try to steal the protagonist's heroine. Meanwhile, on the field, Irina approaches Shiria, informing her that their unicorn team is in last place. She quickly adds a reassuring note, explaining that the final event's points are doubled, making a comeback entirely possible. Their teammate, however, is nowhere to be seen. Alba is fast asleep on a bench. In the stands, two of his female classmates spot him and fume with rage, shouting about his delinquency and calling him an idiot. The final event for the first years is announced, a co-ed pair obstacle race. The female partner starts, navigates an obstacle course, and then passes off to the male partner. Competitors are encouraged to use all their physical strength, magic, and martial prowess to reach the goal. On the field, Shiria and Irina desperately call out, shouting for everyone to find Alba. Their cries finally pierce his slumber, and he sits up with a start, wondering what is happening. As other teams prepare, Yuri's and Alice of the Fenrir team ready for victory, while Mash and Lily of the Phoenix team look on with nervousness and boredom respectively. The cat referee, Tame, appears before Alba, sternly telling him that slacking off is not allowed. The female competitors, including Irina, Lily, and a cat-eared student, take their places at the starting line. They must carry a baton through their section of the obstacle course and deliver it to their male partners. Their partners, Yuri's, Alba, and Mash, wait further down the track. Once they receive the baton, they will race through their own obstacles to the finish. Tamakuro gives the signal. Ready? Go! The race begins with the girls sprinting forward. As the crowd cheers, Alba laments his inability to properly support Lily. Suddenly, a large magic circle flares to life on the track before them. Tamakuro announces that an obstacle has been activated. From the glowing sigil, a mass of shadowy, grasping arms erupts from the ground, forming a writhing barrier. The runners, with Irina at the front, are forced to a sudden stop, staring in shock at the unexpected magical impediment. She found herself ensnared by the grasping magic hands, but Irina coolly identified them as mere imitations. While another student struggled nearby, Lily calmly analyzed the situation, realizing she must bring harmony to the four elements to forge her path to peace and tranquility. Following her assessment, she began to cast. The shadowy appendages around her dissolved, reforming into currents of pure water that cleared a path forward. The announcer, Kate Sith, declared that Lily had forged a way through with her magic. Her display of skill did not go unnoticed. From the sidelines, Alba remarked that everyone has magical affinities and weaknesses. Where he excelled with fire, he struggled with water. Walby praised Lily's performance, but Alba corrected him, insisting it was far more impressive than just pretty good. He realized the truth of it. She had effortlessly manipulated the four fundamental elements of magic all at once. It was an incredible display of power. As Lily advanced, another competitor, Alice, refused to be defeated. Declaring that she wouldn't lose, she invoked a powerful spell, Beast Change. In a puff of smoke, she transformed into a small, agile cat, nimbly dodging the grasping hands as Kate Sith announced her magical change of form. Her new form was still surrounded by the shadowy limbs. She prepared to channel the goddess's blessing to purify the evil force. Watching from the sidelines, Alba recalled that Alice was a heroine known for her tricky magic. Walby laughed, agreeing that if she'd used this trick before, the Chimera never would have caught her. At the same time, Shiria unleashed her own power, casting holy light. A brilliant flash obliterated the shadow obstacle entirely. Walby praised her, recognizing the saint's magic. With the path cleared, the female runners completed the baton pass, and the men's leg of the race began as a new obstacle was activated. The ground trembled as the new challenge materialized. A colossal, heavily armored golem thundered onto the track, its metallic form towering over the competitors. Its sudden appearance stunned the onlookers. Kate Sith announced the obstacle, the Iron Colossus. Mash stared in disbelief at its sheer size, while Alba and Walby grimly acknowledged the massive challenge that now stood before them. He and Yuri's stood before the towering Iron Colossus. As Yuri's received the baton, the referee cat, perched atop Alice's head, announced the challenge. Alice, however, looked on in despair, convinced it was an impossible task. The moment the baton was in his hand, Yuri shot forward with incredible speed. The referee cat noted his swift start, remarking that he was overflowing with energy. Watching from the sidelines, Lily explained the phenomenon to a curious Walby. She called it the imitation theory of otherworldly phenomena, a process where Yuri's absorbs kinetic energy, converts it into his own, and forges a powerful body. The amount of energy he can handle, she added, is dependent on his skill level. Walby listened, intrigued by how animated Yuri's became when using magic. She continued, warning that it was a dangerous magic. Attempting to absorb energy beyond one's level could destroy the body. The referee cat mused that for Yuri's to activate it so smoothly, he must be an advanced user. The cat also noted that with his enhanced physical abilities and kinetic vision, the Colossus would pose little threat to him. Yuri's leaped, striking the Colossus and declaring that no attack would harm him. Watching him, Alba recognized the ability from the game, first stage partial enhancement. He realized this power-up magic was the secret to the protagonist's strength. The referee cat then announced that Yuri's had brilliantly overcome the obstacle. His thoughts were interrupted as Irina appeared, apologizing for her delay. She grabbed him, threatening to expose his true identity if he lost. With a sharp command to win, she left Alba reeling, wondering if his true identity was simply that of the villain. Her threat ignited a fire within him, and he shot forward from the starting line. Shiria cheered his name as he took off. The other students were left bewildered by Irina's words, with Walby shouting after her in frustration. He moved like a bolt of lightning, closing the distance to the Iron Colossus in an instant. The referee cat could only exclaim in shock at the incredible velocity. Instead of going around the obstacle, he smashed directly through it. A blinding flash of energy erupted as Alba obliterated the Colossus's torso, leaving the spectators stunned. With the path cleared, he surged across the finish line, securing victory for his team. His teammates, Irina and Lily among them, watched with expressions of shock and satisfaction as he claimed first place. He had won. As Alba crossed the finish line, Yuri's approached him, remarking with a click of his tongue that Alba should have used another gear. With a serious expression, Yuri's acknowledged him as a worthy rival. Nearby, Walby sat defeated on the ground, clenching a baton and muttering in frustration that he had lost. The victory sent waves of celebration through his teammates. Alice leaped onto Irina's back in a joyful embrace, both cheering loudly. Below, in the main arena, the announcer, Kate Sith, prepared to make the official declaration to the assembled crowd. His voice boomed, announcing that the winner of the first-year competition was the Unicorn team. Watching from the stands, Irina declared that she wouldn't lose next year, while Shiria commented that it was fun to see such interesting magic. Lily simply agreed. From a distance, Alba reflected on the day, thinking of it as a good memory. He had no idea at the time that the sports festival was a trigger for the next major event. Elsewhere, in the shadows, a cloaked man with a symbol tattooed on his chin addressed Yuru, stating that the festival was over. She corrected him with a smirk, revealing a similar symbol on her tongue. The real festival, she asserted, was just beginning. Her subordinate readily agreed. Their organization's ambition loomed over the academy, the tragedy of Ragnarok. Yuru stood flanked by the man and another cloaked figure, a scarred assassin who licked his lips. With confidence, she made their identity clear. They were the organization known as the God Slayers. Outside the academy, the sports festival has finally concluded. Alba sighs in relief, but Irina immediately chides him for feigning exhaustion when he was slacking off. He brushes it off, pointing out that their victory is all that matters, which earns him a look of disapproval from Irina, who remarks that he's still a delinquent at heart. As they talk, Irina mentions that Mina is looking for Shiria to ask for advice, prompting Alba to wonder what it could be about. The scene shifts to the girls' locker room, where Mina stands before Shiria. With a formal posture, Shiria asks Mina why she has come to her, of all people, for consultation. In response to the question, Mina looks down, hesitant. She quietly asks Shiria if she is capable of doing it, leaving Shiria looking puzzled by the vague inquiry. Mina clarifies her question, asking directly, to avoid losing something precious, are you able to sacrifice something else? The weight of the question makes Shiria's expression fall, her gaze turning downward in thought. The question hangs in the air between their silhouettes. Shiria begins to answer, acknowledging that there are times when one must lose something important to protect something else, and she wonders aloud what a person is to do in such a moment. Her philosophical response leaves Mina looking confused. Shiria explains her reasoning. A person is only one head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. With such a limited physical form, it is simply impossible to hold onto everything. She continues this line of thought, her expression somber. Only a god, she posits, can obtain everything. Humans, by their very nature, are always forced to make a choice, to select some things and discard others. She elaborates on this point, explaining that humans must struggle with what to obtain, where to go, and what to choose. It is precisely because they must make a choice, even at the cost of sacrifice, that the decision itself becomes something noble and worthy of pride. Hearing this profound perspective, Mina's expression softens with understanding. She tells Shiria that if she is agonizing over such a difficult choice, then she will respect whatever decision she ultimately makes. Mina's unexpected support and empathy strike a deep chord within Shiria. Overcome with emotion, tears stream down her face as she realizes the kindness being shown to her. She can only manage a whispered, heartfelt, "Thank you." She looked at the young girl, a quiet realization settling in her heart. Mina was the true saint. "I'm sorry," she whispered, prompting a confused "huh" in response. As Mina stood bewildered, a hulking, shadowy figure suddenly materialized behind her, its presence instantly filling the hallway with a palpable sense of dread. The young girl flinched, instinctively bracing herself. The shadow belonged to a large, cloaked man who leaned down towards Mina, offering a disquieting apology. From behind them, Shiria cried out, demanding to know who he was. Her composure shattered completely. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, "I don't want to lose anyone else. I am Sore Kropka." The man paid her no mind, his attention fixed on Mina. A cruel smile spread across his face as he declared that he was there to escort the saint to their organization, Ragnarok. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, Alba, Yuri's, and Alice cheerfully waved goodbye to their departing friends. Their casual conversation turned serious. Yuri's mentioned that Irina had gone to find Shiria, who was running late. Suddenly, both he and Alba tensed, sensing a massive and alarming surge of magical energy. The source of the disturbance was catastrophic. A monstrous, elephantine beast with massive horns erupted into view, tearing through the academy's structures with devastating force. The trio stared in stunned silence at the sheer size of the creature. A look of grim recognition crossed Alba's face. He knew this beast, a legendary monster from the game's final stages, an enemy that had defeated him countless times in his past life. It was the legendary demon beast, Behemoth. He confirms his suspicion. The creature is an imitation behemoth. As he processes this, the academy administrator, realizing they've been attacked at a moment of weakness after the sports festival, shouts for everyone to begin evacuating the students. In the ensuing panic, students cry out in terror, scrambling to escape the monstrous creature rampaging just outside the academy building. Elsewhere, Lily calmly observes that creating a monster imitation requires special magic unavailable to ordinary people, concluding they're deliberately targeting the students. Walby grimly notes the situation is identical to the incident during their off-campus studies. Their attention is then drawn to a new horror as Alice points toward the grounds, where a massive horde of goblins has appeared, swarming alongside the behemoth. Amidst the chaos, Alba's eyes widen in sudden dread. He realizes that Shiria and the other students are inside the school building, directly in the monster's path. He roars for everyone to move and surges forward. From a hidden vantage point, The woman named Yoru watches with a smirk, telling the behemoth to put on a show for Al. Meanwhile, inside a corridor, Yoru stands with her large, cloaked subordinate, who has an unconscious Shirya slung over his shoulder. Yoru comments that the chaos created by her power is going exactly as planned. The subordinate is instructed to retreat with Shirya, but their escape is cut short. Irina appears before them, her expression furious, demanding they release Shirya. In a swift motion, she draws her sword, the polished steel gleaming as she takes a firm battle stance, ready to fight for her friend's freedom. Her blade connects with the man's arm, but instead of cutting, it rings out with the sound of metal on stone. Irina stares in shock, realizing his arm is like rock. As she demands to know who they are, Yoru calmly tells her subordinate, Dodora, to retreat. He acknowledges, noting this confrontation wasn't part of the plan. Her blade rendered useless against his hardened flesh, she is forced to watch as Dodora, holding the unconscious Shirya, waves a mocking farewell. He begins to sink into the stone floor beneath him. She screams for him to wait, crying out Shirya's name. Realizing he is using earth magic to escape through the floor, she sprints towards his rapidly disappearing form. With a grunt of effort, she launches herself into the air, flipping forward in a desperate attempt to intercept him before he vanishes completely. Her path, however, is suddenly blocked. A new figure emerges from a cloud of dark energy, a woman in a horned hood with a long, blade-like tail. It is Yoru. She coolly informs Irina that she is her opponent now. The two clash instantly, Irina's sword sparking against Yoru's tail. Yoru commands her to stand down, claiming this matter doesn't concern her. Irina fiercely rejects this, declaring that in the name of the Belugia family, she will not abandon a friend. Her eyes burn with conviction. She asks Yoru if she wants to die, proclaiming that to abandon a friend is a crime more severe than death itself. She puts her words into action, announcing her technique, Belugia-style swordsmanship, defensive form, Bud. With fluid grace, she parries, deflects, and redirects Yoru's aggressive strikes. She flows seamlessly into her next move, Revolving Flower, a spinning maneuver that completely neutralizes Yoru's powerful tail sweep. The counterattack leaves Yoru stunned. Irina's blade is now pressed against her throat. She has proven the strength of the Flower of Belugia, a title said to surpass even the Royal Knights. She has turned her opponent's own attack against her. Yoru, now completely vulnerable, questions why Irina has stopped her blade. She points out that she could have been struck down in one move. Irina simply looks down, reminding her of the warning she gave, "Do not insult me." She stands over the defeated woman, sword held ready but not striking. With conviction, she states that she does not abandon her friends. Her gaze narrows as she observes the features now visible on her opponent. Horns, long black hair, and a tail. Despite the altered appearance, Irina confirms that she recognizes her. The horned woman, Yoru, questions what she is doing. The woman's eyes widen with desperation. She identifies herself as Mina, insisting that Irina is her friend. Seeing this, Irina's expression softens into reassurance. She tells Mina that it's all right, that she is on her side, and asks her to explain what has been happening. Before Mina can speak, a sudden force strikes Irina from behind. She cries out as she's thrown to the ground, realizing with a start that another enemy was still present. From a swirl of dissipating particles, Dodora appears. He announces mockingly that he has come to retrieve the young lady. Mina, recognizing him, calls him sly. Mina screams at him to stop. Dodora ignores her, looming over the fallen Irina with a lecherous grin, and wonders aloud whether he should abduct her or simply take care of her right there. In response, Mina's face hardens with resolve. She declares that she is only lending her power for the kidnapping of the saint, and that this was the sole condition for her cooperation with an organization called Ragnarok. Dodora scoffs, dismissing her words as a joke and complaining about the trouble of guarding her. His eyes narrow with malice as he threatens to kill Irina immediately, before grunting in frustration. He decides against it, opting instead to use the distraction created by Sister Yoru to make their escape. Grabbing Mina's arm, he activates a technique called invisible camouflage, and their forms begin to fade as he pulls her away. As she is pulled into nothingness, Mina's face is a mask of anguish, tears streaming down her cheeks as she repeatedly mouths apologies. As the commotion unfolds, Alba sprints through the academy, his face etched with panic. He gasps for air, driven by a sense of urgency as Irina's voice calls out his name. He skids to a halt, finding Irina slumped on the ground against the wall. Kneeling beside her, he shouts her name in alarm. Looking up at him with a pained expression, she can only manage a quiet apology. A woman in a dark, revealing hooded outfit, Yoru, laughs with wild abandon. She stands before a horde of grotesque, summoned monsters, commanding them to unleash chaos and destruction. The event is marked as the beginning of the saint abduction incident. In response to the monstrous assault, a figure leaps into the fray. The academy administrator, Gunshow, brandishes a katana, cutting down one of the beasts with a single, powerful slash. He stands firm amidst the carnage, his blade held ready. With a stern expression, he addresses the instigator by name, Yoru, remarking that it has been a long time. Silhouetted against the sky, Yuru questions why she would attack her own alma mater. She recalls being a talented girl who graduated at the top of her class, with Gunsho as her teacher, before declaring her intent. The end of the world's three great powers. Gunsho's eyes widen in disbelief, realizing her ambition extends beyond the academy to the church and the royal palace. Yuru declares that time is up and bids him farewell. As she turns to leave, he desperately shouts her name. As Yuru departs, the magic sustaining her summoned monsters dissipates, and they crumble into dust. Nearby, Irina Belugia watches, cynically remarking that it's all too convenient for a country girl to graduate with top honors. A single tear traces a path down Yoru's cheek, though her smile remains. She softly thanks Gunsho-sensei, vowing to use the magic she learned to bring happiness to others, just as he taught. Elsewhere, Alba groans as he awakens in a bed. He recognizes the infirmary and immediately calls out to Irina, who is sitting by his side, asking if she's all right. He sits up abruptly, his mind racing. "What happened?" he demands, his voice filled with panic. "Shiria, Mina." From a distance, he sees a figure being carried away and realizes with horror that Shiria has been taken. Irina explains that a large man with rock-like skin, clad in a black robe, grabbed Shiria and disappeared into the ground. Alba clenches his fist in fury, recalling his promise to be her bodyguard. Irina then reveals the man had an accomplice, Alice, who looks on with a cold expression. His mind reeled from the revelation. As he stood in the infirmary, the student Alice, lying injured in her bed, spoke with a strained voice, identifying one of the attackers. It was Mina. The name conjured an image of a demonic figure, a being Irina's voice began to describe from memory. She called this entity an Itansha, a heretic, or an outlier. Irina continued her explanation, recounting the teachings of the Cleana Church. Such beings were considered blasphemers, born from the forbidden and unholy union of humans and demons. The implication struck Alba with force. He questioned if Mina was truly a half-demon. Irina clarified that while she couldn't be certain, the attacker's appearance was completely different from the Mina they knew. His expression hardened with conviction. He declared that no matter her form, Mina was their friend, and there had to be a reason for her actions. His thoughts drifted to a happier, simpler time, a memory of him surrounded by his smiling friends, including the gentle Mina he remembered. The memory faded, returning him to the stark reality of the infirmary. He pieced it together. Mina must be part of some organization, just like the large man who abducted Shiria. He wondered if they were all part of a group of these so-called heretics. Suddenly, a chilling realization struck him. This entire situation mirrored a plotline from the game he knew, the Saintus abduction incident. In that story, a cult kidnaps the heroine, only for the protagonist to save her, deepening their bond. But this time, he understood with dawning horror. He himself was the cause. His mind raced. In the original story, the villainous Alba was meant to cooperate with the cult, triggering the event. But he had refused to play that part. He realized with sickening certainty that the world's narrative had compensated for his absence. It had chosen Mina, a minor character, to fill the vacant role of villain, forcing this fate upon her. The weight of his own choices crashed down on him. Pulled from his thoughts, he turned desperately to Irina, asking for any lead on Shiria's location. Irina looked away, ashamed, admitting she'd been knocked unconscious and knew nothing. Just then, a calm voice cut through the tension, announcing that there was a clue. Alba's head snapped toward the sound, his eyes widening in recognition. He turns his attention to Irina, who has taken a seat on an adjacent infirmary bed. With a sharp tone, he accuses her of having poor taste for eavesdropping. Before she can reply, a third figure materializes from a shower of shimmering particles. The newcomer, a girl named Lily, apologizes for her poor timing, admitting that she had been listening to the entire affair. Alba stares in shock, recognizing her. "Lily, you were there," he exclaims. Lily confirms she was, then introduces herself to Irina, stating that she witnessed her battle. Irina is stunned, realizing Lily must have used a spell to erase her presence, a form of ancient magic thought to be lost. Irina's surprise quickly turns to fury. She demands to know why Lily didn't help when her friend Shiria was being kidnapped. Lily calmly explains her inaction, stating she couldn't determine who was right or wrong, as it was possible Mina was justified. While Alba is taken aback by this logic, Irina furiously refutes the idea she would ever bring dishonor to her family. Changing the subject, Lily reveals she has a clue, suggesting something was left behind in the girls' locker room. Seizing the lead, Alba asks Lily to come with him. He then turns to Irina, telling her to stay behind and rest, insisting that she also inform a teacher about the crisis. Though Irina and other concerned students protest, wanting to help, Alba firmly tells her that as an injured person, she must recuperate. As he speaks, a memory surfaces, Mina, frail in her bed, pleading with him to save her too. He recalls the feeling of his own powerlessness then, reaching a hand toward her as he apologized for being unable to help. Snapping back to the present, he sees that same despair in Irina's tear-filled eyes. He places a comforting hand on her head, his voice filled with conviction. "It's okay," he declares. "I'll save them both." Shiria and Mina. Overwhelmed, Irina thanks him through her tears. Lily watches them, telling Irina to rest easy and wait for their return. The scene shifts to a recent memory of the abduction itself. Yoru, having shed her disguise as Mina, watches as her large, cloaked subordinate carries the unconscious Shiria away. Standing in the academy locker room, Alba questions if this is the clue Lily mentioned. She confirms, explaining that this is where Irina was defeated, and she had been trying to grasp the situation before he arrived. Lily senses a faint magical fragment in the air. She explains that the large man who abducted Shiria used powerful earth magic, and such an immense spell would surely leave a trace. She believes they can follow this remnant to find him. Alba expresses his doubt, wondering if tracking a mere fragment is even possible, but Lily thinks to herself that while it would be impossible for other students, she is different. She declares with confidence that she can do it. Revealing herself as a disciple of a sage and the most skilled magic user among the heroines, she asks Alba to lend her his strength to help their important friend. Moved by her conviction, Alba agrees without hesitation. He states that he will follow his heart, choosing to side with her. Lily affirms his decision, telling him that what he has chosen is absolutely the right thing to do. A faint smile appears on Alba's face, his resolve now firm. Meanwhile, far from the academy, Yuri sprints across a barren landscape towards a distant castle. He pushes himself until he can run no more, finally collapsing to his knees, panting for breath. As he recovers, a hawk lands gracefully on his arm. A familiar voice calls out his name. It is Alice, who explains that she had to use her bird's wings to catch up after he suddenly bolted from the academy. She apologizes for the interruption, announcing that she found him. A map of the capital city, Klina, illustrates their position relative to the academy and castle. Yuri's, intrigued, asks what she has found. Alice reminds him of something the headmaster said during the confrontation with the behemoth. Yuri's eyes widen in realization as he recalls the detail. There was someone on top of the beast, and he now believes that person was the true culprit behind the attack. She confirms his suspicion, stating that she saw the figure leap from the behemoth's back at the exact moment the monsters vanished. He sprinted through the academy grounds, explaining to Alice that he had pursued the culprit. She called out from behind, asking if he had managed to pinpoint the criminal's whereabouts. He admitted with frustration that it was no use. He couldn't catch them and was ultimately left behind. This was despite using his first-stage partial boost technique. Alice, perched on his shoulder in her bird form, seemed shocked that even Yuri's incredible speed wasn't enough. He recalled the culprit who had attacked the academy, a shadowy figure that was clearly no ordinary foe. In response, Alice underwent a transformation, her form shifting as she initiated her animal change ability. Now in the form of a hound, she confidently told Yuri's that she could follow the culprit's scent and lead him to their location. Praising her excellent idea, Yuri's urged them to go, and the pair set off. Meanwhile, another chase was well underway. Alba, carrying Lily, had covered a great distance. He checked on her, and she confirmed that she could still feel the traces of magic leading them in the right direction. He told her to hold on tight as he prepared to press forward, and she quietly affirmed. Their destination came into view under the full moon, a vast, crumbling temple complex. A silent vow echoed in Alba's mind. Wait for me, Shiria. Inside that very temple, a grotesque scene unfolded. A small, cloaked figure shrieked in triumph before a skeletal being on a throne, announcing that they had captured the saint. The subordinate cheered for Yoru-sama and the being called Ragnarok, proclaiming this act to be god-slaying. The subject of their celebration, Shiria, lay motionless on the cold stone floor. From afar, Alba's resolve hardened into a single, powerful promise. I will save you, no matter what. A young woman with pigtails and glasses groans, slowly regaining consciousness on a cold, stone floor. Confused and disoriented, she looks around, wondering where she is. Her memory rushes back in a flash. She recalls being approached and then abducted by people she knew as Mina and her companions. The realization dawns with chilling certainty. She is in a prison cell. A voice from outside the bars addresses her as Saintess. A woman with striking half-black, half-white hair stands there, a smirk on her face. She introduces herself as Yoru, the leader of Ragnarok, the very organization that captured her. She cheerfully informs the captive Saintess that this is a festival. The girl can only repeat the word, her voice filled with shock and confusion. The girl, Alice, demands to know what she means. Yoru simply states that she is an important guest, her hand with a strange eye-like symbol displayed prominently. Yoru then reveals her true, shocking purpose, god-slaying. She declares her intent to kill the goddess of fate worshipped by the Clearana Church, leaving Alice speechless with terror. She continues her tirade, condemning the goddess as an unseen entity who merely watches the world. Yoru claims the deity offers no aid to the weak and hungry, while ignoring the corrupt who indulge in greed and conflict. To her, the goddess is nothing but a wretched, discriminatory being. Letting out a chilling laugh, she mocks Alice for questioning her. Yoru sarcastically refers to her prisoner as the only woman in the world to receive the god's divine favor, the sole wielder of its holy power. Leaning in close, her face a mask of contempt, she tells Alice that she is the very embodiment of that divine discrimination. Without another word, she drives her fist through the bars, striking Alice hard in the stomach and slamming her against the back wall of the cell. Her face twisted into a cruel, shadowed smile as she declared her intent to kill this physical manifestation, this saintess, as a substitute for the god who remained unseen. The force of the blow sent the saintess, Alice, crying out in pain as she fell backward. This act, Yoru proclaimed, was the very definition of god-slaying. She landed hard on the stone floor, coughing and gasping for air as her captor loomed over her, unmoved. As she lay there, a bitter thought crossed Alice's mind. She wondered if the church would truly expect one to pray even in a situation like this, recalling the doctrine she had been taught since birth, to thank the goddess of fate for any destiny bestowed upon her. Her thoughts drifted to the teachings given to another holy woman, Shiria. She recalled Shiria's father explaining that her divine power also brought a fate of cruel trials, and that she must use that power for the good of all. The memory shifted to a chaotic scene of knights clashing, with cries to both capture and protect the saintess. It was a heavy burden for a young girl to bear. Indeed, the life of a saintess was one eternally bound to harsh ordeals, a path that followed her from childhood into her youth. But she had almost forgotten another lesson from a different voice. A voice that told her it was okay to run from a fate that brought only tears. And if there was nowhere left to run, he promised he would become her escape. The memory of Alba's smiling face gave her strength. It was his presence that provided the courage to face what lay ahead. That realization solidified into defiance. Lying on the cold floor, Alice looked up at Yoru and declared that while she was grateful for her destiny, she had also been taught that it was right to fight against a fate she hated. The unexpected conviction in her voice caught her captor completely off guard. Her defiance solidified. Alice declared that she would not be killed and that she utterly refused such a fate, her voice ringing with newfound conviction. In response, Yoru rose, questioning why Alice would resist. She argued that killing Alice would change nothing, as the god they serve is immortal. Yoru then coldly asked what, exactly, Alice thought she could accomplish. Alice could only stare, speechless. Yoru dismissed the idea of sacrificing a life for a god. Instead, she cackled, her face twisting into a dark mask of glee. She promised to inflict upon Alice's patrons the pain of losing someone they cherish, a direct blow to the discriminatory rulers. The sheer cruelty of the threat shattered Alice's composure, and she began to sob, tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile, under a starry sky, Alba and Lily stood on a desolate cliff, gazing at a massive, temple-like structure looming in the distance. Lily confirmed that the building was indeed the enemy's hideout. As Alba prepared to move, a memory from the game surfaced, a warning that entering through the front would lead to a painful ambush. He immediately decided against a frontal assault. He explained to a confused Lily that he had researched the strategy, his mind flashing back to the countless game over screens he had faced. Certain of his knowledge, he declared that a back entrance must exist on the opposite side, and that they would head there. He simply told her not to worry, that he knew what he was doing. His thoughts raced. He recognized this as the Save the Saintess event from the game, a conquerable mission. The realization struck him with full force. Shiria could be saved. But he also knew there was a complication. Before he could elaborate, Lily interjected, noting that reality was deviating from the game. She revealed that in this world, Mina was a collaborator with the enemy. With tears welling in her eyes, she pleaded with Alba to save Mina too. Alba thanked her for the information and told her he would handle the rest alone. Just then, Alice appeared, stopping him. She declared that she was interested in him and, wanting to see more of his magic, offered to help him on his mission. Though he internally notes that this situation feels like a pattern that leads to destruction, Alba accepts the reality that more hands are better. Declaring his intent to save Shiria and her companions, he scoops up Lily, who affirms her readiness. With a powerful leap, they set off towards the enemy's location. Meanwhile, under the light of a full moon, Yuri's and his small, dog-like companion arrive at the base of a massive, ancient ziggurat. The companion confirms that the scent they were following leads to the entrance. Yuri's turns, seemingly to an unseen Alice, asking if this is the place. As they approach, Yuri senses footsteps and quickly signals for his companions to hide. Two cloaked figures emerge from the ruins. One complains that it is the night of the long-awaited festival and that no one should be coming to this place, calling his partner paranoid for worrying. The second figure gloats that tonight is the time of the gods. From his hiding spot, Yuri's puzzles over the mention of a festival. The cultist then reveals their true purpose, a god-killing ritual for which they will use the kidnapped saintess as a blood sacrifice. The horrific realization dawns on Yuri's companion. They mean Shiria. The confirmation ignites a cold fury within Yuri's. He steps out from the shadows, his sword already drawn and radiating power, and confronts the two startled cultists, demanding to know if what they said is true. A third figure, their face obscured by bandages, emerges and addresses Yuri's as a kid, asking what a student is doing there. Yuri's companion growls, but Yuri's focus is unwavering. He repeats his question with chilling intensity. Did they kidnap the Saintess? The bandaged cultist confirms it with a wicked laugh, stating the Saintess is indeed in their hideout. Recognizing Yuri's as a noble son, the cultist threatens him, promising to make him regret angering them by torturing him, killing him, and scattering his dismembered body throughout the capital. His threats are cut short. Enraged, Yuri's explodes into action, his blade a blur as he strikes down all 3 cultists in an instant. Watching from a distance, Alice observes the violent outburst, noting to herself that Yuri's is truly angry. The violent present gives way to a gentle memory at a hot spring. A flustered Yuri's apologizes to Shiria for having accidentally touched her chest. Alice playfully teases him, asking how his beloved Saintess was, to which a blushing Shiria quietly admits she was happy about it. Returning to the present, the memory brings a faint smile to Yuri's face. He reflects that just by speaking with her, he felt a sense of healing from her kindness. She was, he realizes, an even more wonderful woman than he had ever imagined. He is pulled from his reverie by Alice, who playfully teases him, suggesting his concern for Shiria is just a cover for wanting to grope her. As he sputters a denial, her expression shifts, acknowledging the deeper truth. For both of them, and especially for Yuri's, Shiria is someone truly special. Their moment is shattered by a sudden threat. Alice looks up, startled, as Yuri's eyes widen in horror. A grotesque, bandaged monster, its mouth a gaping maw of needle-like teeth, lunges at them. Alice recognizes it not as a person but a demon beast, yet she recalls with a jolt that they had somehow been able to communicate with it. From a high vantage point, their intrusion has not gone unnoticed. A group of figures, Yuru, Didora, and a silent, pointy-eared girl among them, peer down at the commotion. Their judgment is swift and contemptuous. Heretics. Having evidently dispatched the monstrous guard, they press their advantage. Together, Yuri's and Alice charge up a grand stone staircase. Shiria, Alice shouts, her fist clenched with resolve. Yuri's and I are coming to save you. She affirms her commitment with a determined nod. Their ascent leads them directly to the top, where Yoru stands waiting, flanked by her subordinates. The entrance is noisy, she remarks with detached amusement. Didora, addressing her respectfully as Sister Yu, confirms he is ready. He then turns his attention to the approaching pair, his voice dripping with menace. Shall we ask our uninvited guest to leave? Beside them, the silent, pointy-eared girl watches the intruders, her face a mask of grim focus. Before a massive, ancient fortress carved into a mountain, Alba grins with satisfaction. He announces to Lily that he's found it, the very place they were searching for. Lily, standing beside him, affirms that it truly exists, her expression one of awe. Alba declares their intent to breach Ragnarok's stronghold. They approach a dark, square opening in the rock face, identified as the back entrance. With determination, Alba says, "All right, let's go." As they walk through the woods toward the entrance, Alba speaks, as if to the wind, promising both Shiria and Mina that he will save them soon. Lily notes that it's pitch black inside, but Alba confidently dismisses the problem, declaring that he will become their light. Lily looks on with concern, realizing he is once again casually using chantless magic to transform his own body into a phenomenon. She warns him that the magic he's using is dangerous. If his body is fully consumed by the phenomenon, she cautions he might not be able to change back. In a sudden move, Alba sweeps Lily into his arms and unleashes a powerful burst of energy. A shield of light erupts around them, propelling them forward at high speed and kicking up a cloud of dust and debris from the ground. They land safely a short distance away. A startled Lily asks what just happened as a low rumbling sound echoes from behind them. Turning around, they see the back entrance has completely collapsed. Alba's expression hardens as he states plainly, an enemy. Lily recognizes the lingering energy as lightning magic. She remarks that she's seen it before, used by the kid who was always with the saint. Alba reacts with visible surprise. From the rubble of the collapsed entrance, a man in a dark, hooded cloak rises. A sinister grin spreads across his face as he asks if they've come to take back the saint. He scoffs at Alba and Lily, questioning if they truly believe their allies were the intended decoy. With a dismissive chuckle, he decides it doesn't matter as his right arm begins to twitch and contort unnaturally. The transformation completes, revealing a massive, bandaged limb. A manic grin spreads across Didora's face as he bellows that all intruders will be slaughtered. Alba stares, a sudden realization striking him. This must be the demon beast's arm that Irina had spoken of. He now understands. This man is not an irregular, but something else entirely. Elsewhere, within the fortress, Yuri's moves like a whirlwind of steel. He swiftly dispatches several cloaked assailants, his blade cutting through them and a large, bandaged monster with lethal precision. He stands over the fallen creature, identifying it as an irregular. His companion, Alice, looks on and urges him to hurry, reminding him that they still need to find Shiria. Back in the courtyard, the fight resumes with explosive force. Didora's monstrous fist connects, sending Alba flying backward with a cry of pain. As Alba crashes to the stone ground, Didora's arm begins to retract to its normal size. From the shadows, a cold command is given to eliminate the intruders. Meanwhile, The path forward for Yuri's and Alice is blocked by a new, hulking figure. The creature's rocky face twists into a snarl as it identifies them as irregulars. The creature pauses, its gaze sharpens. It then corrects itself, growling that they are different. Yuri's and Alice are taken aback by the strange declaration. With a roar of different, the rock-like man slams his fist into the ground. A wave of sharp, crystalline spikes erupts from the stone floor, rushing towards the pair and forcing them to leap for their lives. He tells Alice to leave the enemy to him and use her magic to search for Shiria. Alice readily agrees, adding with a smirk that she isn't just some damsel in distress. Affirming her role as Yuri's partner, she undergoes an animal change, transforming into a small mouse to begin her search. As she departs, the rock-like man confronts Yuri's, claiming that everything their leader, Yuru, said about the church being the source of their problems was true. Yuri shouts back, questioning how they can be anything but villains and heretics after attacking the academy and kidnapping the saint. With tears streaming down his stony face, the man roars that it is the Kleena church that treats them like monsters, discriminates against them, and bullies them. He proclaims that they are the true champions of justice. His cry echoes through the chamber as he declares that they are the allies of justice, bracing for battle against Yuri's. Elsewhere in the fortress, Alba and Lily arrive to find another of the heretics making the very same declaration. Dodora turns to them, his monstrous arm on display. He remarks that people like them are always quick to discriminate based on appearances, all in the name of their god. He reveals that the so-called heretics were originally just ordinary humans. Shocked, Alba and Lily listen as Dodora explains that the cause, whether a curse or a disease, remains unknown. Lily, staring at his arm, questions if he's serious. Dodora continues, explaining that the timing of the transformation varies for each person. Some are born with it, like an infant with stone-like skin, while others change in childhood or adulthood. He shows them the horror of the change, as a man screams while his arm mutates, cast out as a monster. He concludes with a grim warning. Among their kind, some eventually lose their sanity entirely, becoming true monsters in the end. He continues his explanation, revealing that the church has always persecuted his people, branding them as a mix of human and demon. They were labeled enemies of the world, discriminated against, and systematically eliminated. To fight back against this oppression, their goal is to capture the church's most precious treasure and the very symbol of its faith, the saint. A manic grin spreads across his face as he declares their plan a revolution, a salvation for all oppressed heretics. He cackles, reasoning that if the church's discrimination leads to the saint's death, they will finally be forced to repent. Alba processes this, recalling how in the world he once knew as a game, these very people were destined to be the saint's enemies. While a part of him pities their forced role, he steels himself, recognizing this is now reality. He concludes that he doesn't care about the church's self-proclaimed justice. His resolve hardens. He declares forcefully that this is reality, and that Shiria and Mina are his friends. Lily looks at him, questioning his use of the word friends. He simply states that he is here to get his friends back, and that is all that matters. The declaration earns a mocking laugh from Dodora. Seeing Alba's focus, Lily clarifies that the horned woman, Yuru, was the one who captured the saint. He gestures toward Yuru, boasting that she was the one who orchestrated the demon beast attacks after the sports festival and during their off-campus training. All of it was a display of her power. Yuru herself confirms this, explaining that she is special. She possesses the unique ability to create demon beasts from her own magic, a power known as demon beast refinement. Dodora scoffs at the notion of calling such a person a friend. He taunts Alba, reminding him of how Mina was crying, begging for someone to save her. Alba recalls a past encounter with Mina, who had earnestly offered her help. He realizes with a jolt that, even then, she must have been crying on the inside. He thinks to himself that Mina is a kind child. There is no way she would willingly cooperate with the heretics. As Alba processes this, Dodora continues his taunts with a manic laugh, remarking how well that woman infiltrated the group with the saint and her classmates. He adds that it's only natural, since she would have been killed otherwise. Alba can only stare in shock. Dodora's words trigger a horrific memory. Inside a lavish room, the bodies of a man and woman lie on the floor in pools of blood. The cloaked figure of Dodora stands over them, declaring them to be family, as a woman watches from a doorway in abject horror. The woman, Mina's mother, stares with wide, tear-filled eyes, her face a mask of pure terror and disbelief at the carnage before her. Back in the memory, Dodora addresses the horrified mother as the heretic's daughter, stating that he came to invite her to join his companions. The woman can only cry out, asking what he means. He continues his story with a sadistic grin, recounting how he tortured her until she cried and confessed everything, finding the whole ordeal hilarious. Overwhelmed, the mother screams for them to just kill her and her husband together. Dodora's face darkens as he asks Yuru if that is her true nature. In response, her form erupts. Horns sprout from her head, and her features contort with rage as she lets out a furious, guttural scream. Unfazed by her transformation, Dodora calmly states that he is holding her sister hostage. He warns that if she kills him or refuses to join them, he will murder her sister in the most cruel way imaginable. Yoru's enraged face falls, her eyes turning dark with despair. A memory surfaces of a happier time. A young, cheerful Mina with her arms outstretched towards her loving parents, calling out for her big sister. The memory fades, leaving only the present reality. Yoru, in her horn form, weeps uncontrollably, her face a portrait of utter anguish and heartbreak. Her horns are a stark silhouette against the night as she stands, seemingly lost. Beside her, Alba's expression hardens with resolve. He declares that she will become his ally. In response to his words, Dodora's mocking laughter echoes through the clearing. He scoffs at their apparent understanding, bellowing that the woman is one of his comrades and that her pretense of friendship was nothing more than an elaborate performance. His face contorts with manic glee as he continues his tirade. He reveals that she only abducted the saint because she was being manipulated, forced to act in order to save her own sister. The thought of Alba attempting to rescue such a person, he sneers, is utterly ridiculous. He leans forward, his expression growing more predatory. With another cackle, he mockingly asks if Alba has actually fallen in love with such a monstrous woman. His taunts concluded, Dodora makes a grim promise. He declares that he will personally deliver Alba's dead body. With a guttural cry, he lunges, his scaled hand slashing through the air with vicious intent. The attack is met not with flesh, but with a blinding eruption of power. A violent shockwave explodes outward from Alba, sending both Dodora and Yoru flying backward through the air. The source of the blast reveals himself. Alba's face is a mask of pure fury, his eyes glowing with power. He declares that whether this world is a game or reality is irrelevant. Scum like Dodora deserve to die. A massive, wing-like aura of pure power erupts from Alba's back. Before him, a cloaked figure lies defeated on the forest floor. In the distance, Lily watches as his explosive rage becomes a tangible force. Seeing this overwhelming display, Lily calls out his name, her voice filled with concern. She senses the intense emotion radiating from him and asks if he is all right. He turns to her, a wide, almost feral grin spreading across his face. He asks what's wrong, noting that it's unlike her to raise her voice so loudly. His grin remains as he declares his next move. He's going to save Shiria and the others from heretics. As he speaks, Lily watches with crossed arms, recalling her master's teaching that a mage must always remain calm. Her thoughts drift to another of the sage's important lessons, that intense emotions can warp phenomena, and that such warped events can ultimately lead to one's own destruction. She looks toward Alba, her expression filled with worry. He turns back to her, his expression now one of desperate earnestness. He explains that this is precisely why he's been running from his destruction flags all this time. He clenches his fist, shouting that she has nothing to worry about. He proclaims with absolute certainty that he will not die. He continues his declaration, yelling that he refuses to die here, in what is merely the early game. In response, Lily simply tells him to calm down. A dark, square portal materializes as she calmly says, "Okay, Lily." The scene shifts abruptly. Lily is now alone, sitting on the cold stone floor of a prison cell. She hugs her knees to her chest, her head bowed in despair as light streams through a barred window. Her shoulders tremble as she weeps, whispering Alba's name into the desolate silence of her cell. In a cold stone cell, a different scene of captivity unfolds. Shiria, wearing an unfamiliar school uniform, is startled as the door opens. A hulking, cloaked figure with a pig snout enters, announcing he's come to check on the saint. When Shiria asks who he is, the creature leers, stating that since she's to be killed that night, it would be a waste not to have a taste. The pigman lunges, pinning her to the floor. His grotesque mouth, filled with sharp teeth, opens wide as he descends upon her. Shiria screams in terror, her hands pushing uselessly against his powerful form. He revels in her fear, goading her to scream louder, claiming it excites him. Shiria cries out, trapped beneath the monstrous assailant. In her absolute desperation, a single name escapes her lips in a choked cry, a plea for Alba to save her. As if in answer to some unheard call, a tiny mouse suddenly appears, perched directly on the pigman's nose. Shiria's terrified expression shifts to one of tearful bewilderment. The small creature is no ordinary rodent. It stands on two legs, flexing a muscular bicep, and points an accusatory finger. Shiria recognizes it as a mouse. But before she can process the absurdity, the tiny hero roars at the pig bastard to release Shiria. Following the mouse's command, an enormous fist slams into the pigman's face with tremendous force. A large gorilla has appeared, delivering what is declared an angry megaton punch. Shiria can only stare in disbelief, muttering, "A gorilla?" The blow sends the assailant flying. The gorilla, now wearing a gentle expression, turns to the stunned Shiria and confirms that she came to help. In that moment, another figure materializes in a flash of light. It is a girl with long twin tails and glasses. Overcome with relief, Shiria cries out her name, "Alice." Alice rushes forward, pulling the trembling Shiria into a warm embrace and patting her head reassuringly. She listens as her friend Alice explains the situation. The academy was attacked by monsters, and she and Yuri's pursued the culprit to this location, only to find Shiria captured. Noting Shiria's state of dress, Alice offers her own sweater, which Shiria gratefully accepts. Alice then urges her to hurry, saying that Alba and the others must be worried. Following Alice's lead, the two girls run through the crumbling stone corridors, with Alice pointing the way forward. As they flee, Shiria worries if Yuri's will be alright on his own, but Alice dismisses her concern. She states with confidence that Yuri's is incredibly strong, a fact the village chief often spoke of. This confidence is rooted in a profound truth. Yuri's is the reincarnation of the legendary hero, his gaze fixed with the grim determination of his lineage. Elsewhere, in a similar stone dungeon, Alba confronts a different foe, a massive cloaked man with skin like granite. The creature grins with fanatical zeal, vowing that the wicked will not be forgiven. The rock-skinned man roars that evil must be destroyed as he lunges. Alba charges to meet him, sword ready, shouting back that he doesn't care for his enemy's ideology. He will cut down anyone who harms those he holds dear. He brings his sword down in a powerful arc, screaming that his foe will not be forgiven. But the blade shatters against the man's impossibly hard skin. The creature mocks the sword's weakness before delivering a crushing punch that sends Alba flying backward with a cry of pain. As Alba recovers, the zealot raises his own massive weapon, declaring that the goddess sect is the true evil, and by extension, so is the saint who wields its power. Sparks fly as Alba barely manages to parry the devastating blow. Thrown to the floor by the impact, Alba looks up defiantly. The rock-skinned man looms over him, bellowing that anyone who sides with the saint is also an enemy to be destroyed. As he faced his seemingly insurmountable foe, his thoughts drifted to the one he was fighting for, the saint. A memory surfaced of a village elder speaking to the children of his community. He explained that the new saint was a girl their age, one who held the sacred power of the goddess and embodied the hope of the world. The elder's voice echoed in the memory, charging the young Yuris and Alice to hone their skills together, for it was their duty to protect the saint. He reminded them that as descendants of the hero who saved the world alongside the goddess, this was their sacred mission. He implored the people of the hero to be strong, and a young Yuris affirmed his words. A young Alice, however, complained about why the hero's descendants had to live in such a boring, rural place. The elder patiently explained that the city was full of temptations that could disturb one's spirit, and that finding harmony with nature was paramount. Ignoring the lesson, she instead made Yuri's promise that they would absolutely go to the academy together, a vow he quietly accepted. The image of the saint, the world's hope, lingered. The memory fades. Back in the present, Alba stands firm against his foe. The rock-skinned man sneers, calling him a stubborn villain and vowing not to let him escape. He lunges forward with a bellowing command to be crushed, swinging a massive stone fist. Alba raises his own hand, meeting the devastating attack head-on. The impact sent a shockwave through the air, but Alba's hand does not yield. Instead, cracks begin to spiderweb across the surface of his attacker's stony fist. The zealot cries out in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his rock was shattered by a mere punch. Alba stands resolute, knowing this was no ordinary blow. He had pushed beyond first-stage partial enhancement, raising his gear another level. He channels his power, pushing it beyond the first stage. A fierce grin spreads across his face as he activates the second-stage partial enhancement, his thoughts echoing a challenge. People of the hero, be strong. With this newfound strength, he lunges forward, his fist a blur of energy aimed directly at the stunned zealot. The massive man can only watch in disbelief as the attack closes in. The blow connects with devastating force, sending the rock-skinned man reeling backward. He gags in pain as he is thrown through the air, utterly overpowered. He crashes to the ground, his tough exterior broken. Reduced to a sobbing mess, the zealot cries out in pain and fear, begging for someone named Yoru-sama to save him. Alba stands over him, the immediate threat neutralized. Elsewhere in the crumbling ruins, Yuri's is suddenly ambushed. A woman with striking two-toned hair appears in a flash, her fist aimed squarely at his face. He gasps, caught completely off guard by the swift assault. Her attack lands true, a powerful kick that sends Yuri's flying backward across the stone floor. The woman lands gracefully, her attention fixed on her target. Yuri stares in shock, recognizing the immense power behind the casual attack. The woman approaches him with a dismissive air, remarking that he's just a child and that she has no choice but to deal with him. In the background, the defeated zealot continues to wail. She formally introduces herself. I'm Yuru. Nice to meet you, little boy. Yuri's eyes widen in horror, the name confirming his fears. He knows he is facing an incredibly dangerous foe. She glances back at her defeated subordinate, ordering the man she calls Dodora to retreat to the dungeon. She informs him that several rats are heading toward the saint's location, and he confirms he understands. Her attention then snaps back to Yuri's with a predatory smile. You're not bad, she concedes, her tone chilling, and now goodbye. Within a cavern littered with bones, Alice and Shiria run for their lives. Alice, glancing back with wide eyes, questions if Shiria was the one who kidnapped Mina. Shiria quietly confirms it. The rescue has succeeded, but the path ahead, the retaking of the Garden of Evil, promises to be fraught with peril. Alice stops, her expression one of pure shock. She struggles to reconcile this information, remembering that Mina's parents have been killed. Tears well up in Shiria's eyes as she explains that Mina confessed she didn't want to do it. The two stand alone in the cold, stone passage. The realization dawns on Alice. She concludes that Mina must have been threatened and forced to abduct her. Trying to comfort the distraught Shiria, Alice insists that it will be all right. Shiria reflects on her own past, recalling how different she felt from the others around her. Her thoughts are interrupted as Alice looks at her with conviction, declaring that it doesn't matter because they are friends. Shiria looks up, surprised and touched by the declaration. Suddenly, the ground trembles violently. The cavern wall behind them explodes inward, revealing a monstrous, rock-skinned giant with a terrifying tribal mask for a face. The creature, Dodora, roars that they will not escape. A horrified Alice recognizes him instantly, crying out that he was the one who kidnapped her. With another guttural roar, Dodora lunges forward, his immense shadow falling over the two girls. Alice stumbles and falls. She can only let out a terrified scream as Dodora's massive, bandage-wrapped fists descend upon her. She struggles within the rock monster's grasp, her mind reeling with confusion. She mutters that he was supposed to be fighting Yuri's. Her captor, Dodora, ignores her, calling out to a woman standing nearby, Azu. Alice recognizes this woman as their leader. Dodora boasts that if it's for his big sister Yoru, he'll gladly crush them. He turns a menacing grin towards the captive girls, declaring that it's over for them because Yoru is the strongest. As Alice trembles, Shiria tries to reassure her, telling her it will be all right and invoking Yuri's name. Shiria's words spark a flicker of hope. Alice clings to the thought that Yuri's is, after all, the strongest. But the reality of Yuri's battle was far more dire. In a recent confrontation, he clashed with Yoru. She coolly identified his advanced technique, second stage partial enhancement, impressed by his youth. Yuri's countered that it wasn't talent, but hard work, realizing with dawning horror that she was also a master of the same skill. He wasn't fighting alone. Alba had leaped into the fray, shouting his determination not to lose to evil. Yoru, however, found their passion merely amusing as she effortlessly parried their attacks and kicked Alba aside. Her power was absolute. In a flash of blue energy, she seized Yuri's by the hair, lifting him from the ground. She mocked his belief in good triumphing over evil, calling it a sweet dream as he stared back in wide-eyed, powerless shock. Dropping him to his knees, she stood over his defeated form. She spoke of a world where the wise and good weep, while the foolish and wicked laugh. To change this unjust world, she proclaimed, she will kill the saint and bring about true equality. Her gaze was cold and resolute. Everything, she declared, is for the sake of God's slaying. She will show no mercy to anyone. She stands over the defeated Yuri's, who is on his hands and knees amidst the rubble. With a dismissive tone, she declares that she is quite fond of the color blue. He grits his teeth, blood trickling from his mouth, but a defiant smirk forms on his lips. He declares that his creed is to believe in his chosen path and follow it without hesitation. She chuckles, finding his defiance amusing. She mockingly praises his words as something befitting a tragic hero, but coldly informs him that for him, this story has a bad end. With that declaration, she leaps into the air, bringing her leg down in a devastating axe kick aimed directly at the hero. The impact kicks up a massive cloud of dust and debris. Yoru lands gracefully, a satisfied smile on her face, confirming to herself that her judgment of him was not mistaken. But from within the settling dust, a figure rises. Yuri's, far from defeated, has activated a new level of power, his body transformed and radiating energy as he announces the use of second stage partial enhancement. His eyes burn with a fierce new intensity. He snarls that what she wields is no mere magic for a child to use, calling her a damned genius. Elsewhere, the battle is being observed. The Pigman, one of Yoru's subordinates, shouts with conviction that a hero like Yuri's could never lose to villains like them, before insisting that they themselves are not villains. He is immediately contradicted by Alice, who furiously points out that they kidnapped a girl and killed Mina's parents, which certainly makes them villains. The Pigman stammers in denial, his conviction shaken as he insists he is not a bad person. Before he can protest further, two small but incredibly muscular anthropomorphic creatures, a mouse and a gorilla, descend upon him. As they strike the terrified Pigman, they roar a single word, justice. As the Pigman reeled, a new power began to manifest. An incantation echoed on a mystical level, speaking of blessings in single grains of sand, of worlds created from the gathering earth, and of the ground as the lodging place of all life. This unseen force sent rocks churning into the air, throwing the two young women who had been near the Pigman off balance. He remained crouched on the ground, bewildered by the chaotic scene unfolding around him. One of the girls, Alice, managed to land on her feet. She looked around in confusion as her friend tumbled to the ground, exclaiming in surprise and wondering why the rocks were moving on their own. The Pigman roared in frustration, demanding to know why his magic was suddenly nullified. The tiny, muscular mouse creature appeared, explaining that the attacker was using advanced earth magic, a technique that mixed real stones with imitation ones, and had overwritten his spell with their own incantation. The pig man furiously demanded to know who was responsible. Stepping into view amidst swirling petals, a young woman with calm eyes announced her presence. She declared that the area was now within her magical territory and that his earth magic would not activate. She identified herself as Lily, stating she had come to help the saint, Shiria. Her two friends stared in shock, recognizing her as Lily from the Phoenix team, who had run with them during the sports festival. Lily then revealed that she was running with Alba. At the mention of his name, the image of a confident Alba filled the minds of the girls, a towering figure of reassurance. Elsewhere, the Saint Shiria herself felt a connection, her face lighting up with hope as she whispered Alba's name. Back at the scene, the girl with glasses, Alice, cheered that with Alba's arrival, they would be 100 times stronger. Lily, however, turned her attention to Alice, her expression one of keen interest as she commented on the girl's intriguing transformation magic, much to Alice's flustered delight. Lily then clarified that she was merely acting as a decoy, prompting the others to ask where Alba was. She calmly replied that he was also becoming a decoy, leaving the two girls confused. Meanwhile, in another location, Alba Iresia unleashes a devastating attack, obliterating a swarm of monstrous creatures. He places his trust in Lily, believing in her strength to handle the situation on her own. Back on the shattered street, the pig man stands his ground, his form immense and intimidating. He bellows that no one will escape, his voice a guttural roar directed at Shiria and her friends who stand before him. Facing his threat, Lily remains composed, flanked by her companions. She calmly informs the beast that his earth magic is useless and tells him to give up. He bristles at her words, his face contorting with rage. He recalls the words of a woman named Yuru, who told him he wouldn't lose, that his power was special, a power of justice. The memory takes him back to a desolate, rocky landscape. A cloaked woman, Yuru, laughs, unfazed by his presence. He had asked who she was, if she wasn't afraid of him. She had simply introduced herself as Yuru and asked for his name in return. She had found him in his cave, a place where others called him a heretic, a monster. She, however, saw something different, addressing him by the name Dodora and acknowledging that everyone else was unaware of his true nature. She had told him that he possessed a special power, a unique vessel for it. She invited him to join her, to use that power for the sake of justice. Fueled by this memory and her promise, the pig man, Dodora, roars in defiance. He screams that the power of justice cannot lose as he lunges towards Lily, his fist raised to strike. As he charges, Lily's companions cry out her name in alarm. They are stunned that she can wield high-level magic without incantations. Yet Lily herself remains focused, reflecting that to speak of power without learning its principles is the height of folly. She calmly explains that magic is the crystallization of wisdom, honed by the tireless efforts of their predecessors. She holds up a pendant, declaring that she will not lose to someone who wields power driven by emotion, ignorant of its nature. As she speaks, she issues a command, "Unravel the earthly garment you wear." The pig man cries out as the very magic forming his armor begins to dissolve. She stands calmly amidst the chaos, her hand outstretched. With a single command, "Explode," the magical shell encasing her opponent shatters in a violent blast of rock and dust as the pig man cries out in agony. This was a lesson from her master, one she took to heart. A mage must always be calm. She had turned her opponent's own uncontrolled power against him, causing it to self-destruct. Her companions watched in awe, one exclaiming how incredible it was for Lily to manipulate another's magic. Shiria offers her thanks, but Lily dismisses the formality, telling her it's not needed. She clarified what had just happened, much to the astonishment of the others. The man had been using earth magic to protect himself, and she had simply stripped that protection away. As the dust settled, the monstrous, rocky form crumbled away, revealing the truth. The hulking figure was merely a shell. Inside lay a small, whimpering boy. Seeing the defeated boy, one of the girls lamented having to fight such a child. Lily, however, simply tells her two companions to leave as she prepares to head elsewhere. Her gaze was fixed and intense. Her mind was already on the next step, realizing that she had just acquired the key needed to resolve the entire incident. Her friends were taken aback, repeating her words in stunned disbelief. A key to resolving the incident? Meanwhile, in a different part of the ruins, Alba stood alone in a grand chamber. Noting the lack of pursuit, he figured the main threat was handled and hoped Lily was all right. His attention was drawn to a large, imposing statue, and he wondered if this was the Demon Lord, the final boss of the game Cleana Fantasy. However, the world he now inhabited was a multi-scenario game. In Cleana Fantasy, the appearance of the Demon Lord was not a certainty. Before the imposing statue, Alba prayed that this ultimate evil, the Demon Lord, would not manifest in this timeline. He hoped this was one scenario where the final boss would never appear. His prayer was cut short by a sound from the entrance. He turned, surprised, to see a figure emerge from the darkness, her voice confirming she had come for him. Alba's shock gave way to a grim satisfaction. His plan to draw her out by causing a commotion had worked. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a woman with long, flowing hair, pointed ears, and a serpentine tail, all clad in black. It was Mina, but transformed into something else entirely. He stared, struggling to reconcile this vision with the girl he knew. That form. He began, but she cut him off. She understood his shock, coolly confirming his unspoken question. Yes, she was a monster, an outcast. Her words triggered a flood of memories from his past life. The shock wasn't just seeing her transformation, but the sudden, horrifying recollection of who she was in the game story. He finally understood. This was Mina's true nature. In his memories of Cleana Fantasy, she was a boss character known as the Monster Queen. He recalled the difficult battles against her, her power to endlessly spawn other demonic beasts, making her a formidable foe. Back in the cavern, Mina's expression softened with anguish. She confessed that once again, she was being forced into an impossible choice in order to protect what she held dear. With a tormented scream, she declared her terrible resolution. She must kill her precious friend. As she spoke, two massive, spectral beasts, one of light, one of darkness, materialized behind her, poised to strike. Hearing this, Alba's face hardened with resolve and sorrow, his voice tight as he uttered her name. Beside him, Mina's own resolve crumbled into tears, and she could only repeat, "I'm sorry," over and over again. Within a grand, high-ceilinged chamber, Mina stands before a monstrous, two-headed chimera, one head of a lion, the other of a goat. Alba stands behind her as she warns him that now is the time to retreat. She explains that this chimera is immune to magic, a foe she cannot hope to defeat on her own. A powerful blast of energy strikes the chimera from an unexpected direction, causing it to recoil. Mina, who had been preparing her own attack, stares in shock, wondering what just happened and where the attack came from. From across the hall, Alba smirks, catching her attention. He calls out to Mina, telling her that she seems to have a few misunderstandings about the situation. He elaborates on her first mistake, the assumption that he possesses no means of physical attack. The perspective widens, showing the two of them standing far apart in the vast, debris-strewn hall. Alba's mind flashes back to a conversation with Yuri's and Lily during their off-campus training. He recalls Yuri's being praised for his powerful physical attacks, while Alba himself noted that his own advantage was merely the high speed granted by his magic. In a memory, Yuri's had explained a key concept to him. He pointed out that Alba's magic produces an incredible amount of kinetic energy. Lily chimed in, suggesting he just needed to apply that energy to something, a point Yuri's enthusiastically confirmed. Returning to the present, Alba puts the lesson into practice. He declares that he'll simply throw something with all his might, channeling his energy into a small piece of rubble he holds in his hand. He unleashes the throw. The projectile streaks across the hall like a super-speed cannonball, slamming into the chimera with an explosive impact that shatters the stone floor and sends the beast reeling. A confident grin spreads across Alba's face as he observes the result. He muses that the idea was so primitive, so simple, that it had been a complete blind spot for him until now. He turns his attention back to the stunned Mina. He tells her to relax, then reveals her second misunderstanding. He is, in fact, strong. He holds Mina firmly, his expression resolute as an aura of power emanates from him. He promises to save her, a vow she accepts with a single, desperate word. Definitely. He elaborates on his promise, telling the crying Mina that he will crush the organization that has caused this, for her sake and for Shiria's. His voice remains firm as he looks down at her, urging her to trust him. Following his words, he pulls her into a comforting embrace, holding her close. Within the safety of his arms, Mina's internal struggle is laid bare. She recalls how she had been calling out to Alba for help, over and over, silently screaming within her own heart. The silent screams finally break free as audible sobs. Tears stream down her face as she confesses that she desperately wanted to ask for help. She explains the impossible situation she was in, lamenting that she couldn't risk it because her family, the very people who loved a monster like her, had been taken hostage. Her mind drifts back, recounting her history. She has no memory of her birth parents. Her earliest recollection is of crying alone in a forest. It was there that the Rupakar couple, who had no children of their own, found her. Despite her being an outcast, they took her in, adopted her, and gave her love. She learned transformation magic to appear human and lived without hardship until a fateful day arrived. That day was one of profound joy. Her new family grew as her adoptive mother introduced her to her newborn sister, Kana. Her father asks her to watch over the baby, and Mina makes a heartfelt promise to always protect her little sister. The memory fades, bringing her back to the painful present. She concludes her confession to Alba, explaining that to protect her sister, she was forced to cooperate with the organization, which led her to kidnap Shiria. She had betrayed a precious friend. As she continued to weep, her small sobs echoing softly, Alba gently held her face. With a confident, reassuring smile, he corrected her, stating that this was her third misunderstanding. He then revealed that he was not the only one who wanted to help her. Mina's eyes widened in shock at his words, just as another figure stepped into the dilapidated hall. It was Alice, confirming she was also there to lend her aid. Within a stone corridor, 3 young women stand together. Alice, with her distinctive pigtails and glasses, Shiria, in a simple sweatshirt, and Lily, wearing her academy uniform. They spot their companions in the distance. Shiria calls out cheerfully to Al and Mina, while Alice, with a wide grin, exclaims that Mina's new look is awesome. In response, Mina turns toward them, her face a mask of shock. Small horns now protrude from her head, and her teeth have become sharp fangs as she stammers, questioning why they are all there. The perspective widens, revealing that Yoru is speaking to Alba in a ruined chamber. She explains that Alice and Lily were the ones who helped her, gesturing toward the 3 girls who have just arrived in the background. She continues, clarifying that she wasn't alone and that she discovered a sealed location. As she speaks, Alba's silhouette appears before the girls, startling them. The scene shifts to the location Yoru mentioned. Alice, Shiria, and Lily stand before a massive stone door, completely covered by an intricate, glowing web of sealing magic. Lily immediately identifies it as sealing magic. Shiria notes that she feels a power from it similar to what she sensed when she and Al separated. As Alice wonders what's inside, Lily begins an incantation to break the seal, chanting, "O power that binds and divides, be now released and brought into the light." A brilliant flash of light erupts from Lily's hand, striking the complex magical barrier. The web of magic shatters and dissipates. Alice expresses her amazement at how easily Lily dispelled it, but Lily casually remarks that it's a spell she practiced often with her master. Suddenly, a distinct click echoes from the now unsealed door. The 3 girls gasp, startled, as they realize someone is on the other side. Alice stares, beginning to recognize who it might be. Her eyes widened as the heavy door swung open, revealing a small, solitary girl standing in a sparsely decorated room. The child, with her hair in a small pigtail, stared back with wide, surprised eyes from the doorway of what appeared to be her playroom. The little girl introduced herself as Kana Rupakar and asked who they were. Before they could fully answer, one of the other girls exclaimed that Rupakar was Mina's family name, identifying Kana as Mina's little sister. Kana cheerfully confirmed this, adding that she had been in that room for a very long time. The revelation sent a shock through the group. Kana continued, her expression turning somber as she explained that her papa, mama, and her big sister Mina were all sick. She recounted how a man named Dodora had brought her to this room. He had told her to be a good girl and stay put so she wouldn't get sick too. Though she was lonely, she had been trying her best. Hearing this, Lily's mind flashed to the fate of Mina's parents. At the same time, the other girl, Alice, came to a horrifying conclusion. They had been killed. Unaware of the dark truth, Kana smiled brightly, hoping everyone would get well soon. Moved by the child's innocence, the girl with glasses knelt and pulled Kana into a tight hug as the others looked on. She reassured Kana that she would be able to see her sister and that they would go together. Kana's face lit up with pure joy as she exclaimed her thanks. They led Kana back to the others, where Mina stood in her horn form beside Alba and Shiria. The girl with glasses gently told Mina that everything was all right now. Finally safe, Kana beamed and ran with all her might toward her sister, joyfully shouting her name. But as she drew close, Mina suddenly collapsed to the stone floor. Kana's joyful cries turned to screams of horror as she watched her sister fall. The little girl, Kana, weeps in her sister's embrace. Yoru, still in the guise of Mina, holds the child tightly, tears streaming down her own face in a display of overwhelming emotion. Through her sobs, Kana looks up at the woman she believes to be her sister, asking if her sickness is gone and if she's all better now. Yoru simply confirms, her voice thick with emotion. As the 2 sisters remain locked in their embrace on the tiled floor, Alba and his companions, Shiria, Lily, and Alice, stand back, observing the poignant scene. The sight seems to trigger a memory for Alba. His thoughts drift to a different time, a moment of him standing beside Shiria, his arm around her shoulders with a confident smile as she looked away, flustered but pleased. He remembers her shyly looking down as he apologized, admitting he had failed in his duty as her bodyguard. But Shiria had quickly reassured him that it was all right. She had looked up at him then, her eyes full of unwavering trust, and told him that she never doubted he would come to save her. Back in the present, the moment of reflection is broken as Alice turns to Shiria, offering her thanks. Shiria, her own thoughts returning to the present, acknowledges her. She then addresses the entire group, her expression filled with gratitude, and thanks everyone, Shiria, Alba, and all their companions. The group stands together, their focus now back on Yoru and Kana, who remain huddled on the ground amidst the rubble. With her head bowed, Yoru's voice comes out soft but clear. She offers her thanks and then an apology. Her face, streaked with tears, is a mask of sorrow. With her head bowed in shame, she makes a solemn vow, her voice choked with emotion, promising that she will atone for this sin. In response to her anguish, a gentle hand takes hers. The rest of the group, Shiria, Alba, and Alice, look on with concern. Lily, however, appears utterly bewildered, calling out to her sister, Mina, questioning the sudden change. The comforting gesture comes from a young woman with long, light hair held back by a winged ornament. She kneels before the weeping Yoru, taking both of her hands in a firm, reassuring grip. Yuru, her expression still one of deep sorrow, looks up at this unexpected figure. Kneeling before the disguised Yuru, who holds the infant Kana, Shiria explains that acting out of a desire to protect someone important is not a sin. The other girls, including Alice and a woman with a winged hair ornament, look on with understanding. Taking Yuru's hand, the woman with the winged hair ornament looks at her gently. She tells the tearful girl that this powerful feeling is what people call love. She continues, her voice resonating with conviction, stating that not even the gods possess the right to pass judgment on love. A sense of unity forms around the group as they stand together. With a warm smile, she invites Yuru to join them again in the future, affirming that they are all friends now. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yuru accepts, tears of relief and happiness streaming down her face. Observing this unexpected turn of events, Alba internally recalls the world's original script. In the game, Mina was the monster queen, a boss whose defeat was meant to conclude the entire saint kidnapping incident. A smirk of defiance touches his lips. He reaffirms his conviction, this is not a game. The group of girls, now united with their former adversary, stands together with newfound hope. The realization is clear and powerful. Fate can be changed. His thoughts are interrupted as he turns to Alice, the student with glasses. He reasons that if the protagonist was supposed to rescue the saint, then Yuri's must also be here. Alice confirms his suspicion with alarm, shouting that Yuri's is, at this very moment, fighting the area's boss. Hearing this, the woman with the winged hair ornament immediately rallies everyone, declaring that they will all go to help Yuri's. Shiria gratefully agrees, and Yuru, now a firm ally, eagerly offers her assistance as well. Just as their new plan is set, a massive, pig-like man violently smashes through a nearby wall. The sudden, explosive entrance sends debris flying and catches the entire group, including a stunned Alba, completely by surprise. The sudden, violent image of Yuri's defeat flashes before them. Shiria cries out his name in anguish, her face a mask of horror as she sees him lying broken. Nearby, Alice and the others are frozen in shock, unable to process the hero's downfall. As the grim vision fades, Alba's expression hardens with understanding. He realizes that the third stage partial enhancement was too advanced for the young master, a magic so potent that it ended up destroying its user. His analysis is cut short as the ground before them cracks and shatters, heralding the arrival of a new threat. From the settling dust, a woman emerges with a confident air. Her hair is a striking mix of black and white, and she regards the group with a playful smirk. Well, she says, it seems everyone is gathered. She looks around at the devastation, her tone laced with condescension. She asks if their entire organization has been wiped out, calling them sloppy. In response to her taunt, Alba and his companions stand their ground in the ruined hall, facing the mysterious newcomer. Their wariness turns to stunned recognition. Shiria and the cat-eared girl gasp as Alba breathes her name in disbelief. Guru? It can't be. As they reel from the revelation, another student with glasses and pigtails observes a handheld game console displaying Yoru's original appearance. The real Yoru, now with her altered look, grins and declares she is their ally. The girl with glasses agrees, noting their shared academy uniforms and offering to lend a hand to her cute juniors. Faced with this unexpected turn of events, the group stands before Yoru, sensing a profound shift. The scenario, the very fate of their world, is changing in a major way. Elsewhere, Alba's brother, Roy Iresia, smirks while holding a small, demonic familiar. He wonders aloud if this world is now plagued by evil because the designated villain, Alba, is no longer present to fulfill his role. The weight of this possibility settles on Alba, his expression hardening with grim resolve. The woman with the winged hair ornament confronts Yoru, asking if she intends to betray Ragnarok. Yoru scoffs at the question, declaring that she was never their ally to begin with and considers everyone present an enemy. The woman sighs, seemingly resigned to the turn of events. A wild grin spreads across Yoru's face as she announces her intention to fight them all herself. Power erupts from her, and her hair flashes into a two-tone style as she activates a third-stage partial enhancement. The immense pressure from her transformation causes the cat-eared student to cry out in fear, clutching Kana tightly. The winged hair woman is stunned, shocked that someone so timid could unleash such power so easily. Alba observes grimly, recognizing her strength as top tier within the game world he knows. Her eyes glowing with manic energy, she smirks and promises to punish them, just as she did the boy. As Yoru prepares for battle, a scream cuts through the air. From across the rubble, Alice cries out in panic, having spotted Yuri's unmoving form. Beside her, a horrified Lily calls out to Alba for help. She rushes to his side, cradling his head in her lap. Her voice breaks into a desperate wail as she screams that Yuri's is dead. The shocking truth hangs in the air. Yuri's, the world's designated protagonist, lies lifeless. Amidst the ruins, Yuri stands with his foot on Alba's back, who lies motionless on the ground with blood trickling from his mouth. As a stunned Alice watches from the rubble, Yuri's makes a shocking declaration. The protagonist is dead. A woman with striking two-toned hair, half dark and half light, appears with a confident smirk. She issues a chilling ultimatum: hand over the saint, and she will consider not killing everyone. In response to the threat, Shiria rushes forward, her own name a desperate cry on her lips. Behind her, the chaotic scene is frozen for a moment as Yoru and her allies observe the confrontation. The focus shifts to Yuri's, now collapsed on the ground. Shiria cradles his head, praying to the goddess to grant her light and bring peace to his innocent soul. Nearby, Alice screams his name in horror. Ignoring the looming danger, she places her hands on Yuri's chest and shouts the incantation for a powerful holy spell. Resurrect. A brilliant, holy light erupts from her hands, enveloping Yuri's body as the potent healing magic courses through him. The two-tone woman watches this display with casual arrogance. She states that whether they live or die, whether she spares them or kills them, is entirely up to her. Her dismissive words ignite a furious rage in Alba. He springs to his feet, his face contorted with anger, and roars for her not to mess with them. He commands everyone to stand back, proclaiming that this opponent is his to fight. Before he can make a move, the woman strikes with blinding speed, delivering a powerful kick that sends him flying. "You're in the way," she says coldly. As Alba is thrown back, Shiria cries out his name, then shouts toward the antagonist group, "Yuru!" The battle lines are drawn. Alice stands defiantly, declaring she won't let them have Shiria. The two-tone woman glares back, enraged. Nearby, the anthropomorphic gorilla roars, vowing to never forgive them for what they did to Yuri's and the others. The woman with two-toned hair coldly declares that the saint's role is finished. As Yuri's lies incapacitated on the shattered ground, Shiria desperately pleads for just a little more time to complete his recovery. His companions watch, their faces etched with helpless concern. Her response is one of utter disgust. She proclaims that the selfish notion of only the saint being permitted to use resurrection magic is nauseating. At this very moment, she argues, countless people are dying from illness, injury, and violence. It is an unreasonable world where everyone struggles, and she finds it illogical that Shiria should be an exception. A woman with distinctive two-toned hair violently grabs another by her clothing. With an intense gaze, she demands to know if her captive has also experienced the pain of losing someone precious. This question of loss resonates elsewhere. A dark smile plays on Yoru's lips as she reflects on her own past, musing that if she had been a saint, things might have been different. She concludes with cold certainty that this world is simply unfair. She wonders why it is unforgivable for her alone to possess a sacred power, her thoughts drifting back to her origins. She was born among the people of the mountain, who lived in harmony with nature, without magic. As the only child with magical talent, she was an outcast, sent by the village chief to Kriana Academy. After 3 years, she returned to what she still considered a dreary village. In her memories, she sits before a village elder. The old woman asks if Yoru has learned to properly wield her magical power. Yoru confirms she has, thanks to the elder's support. The elder then uses that magic is meant to be used for someone's happiness. The flashback shifts to her time at the academy. Administrator Gunsho laughs, remarking how the once delinquent girl has learned to say such admirable things and has truly grown before returning home. He had thoroughly drilled into her that she was not to use magic for her own selfish reasons. Yoru, however, simply clicks her tongue in annoyance, calling him a noisy old man. But her true motivation for returning becomes clear as a young boy named Asa runs towards her, shouting her name with pure joy. The villagers note her return after 3 years, reminding Asa that his patience has paid off as he'd been so excited for his big sister to become a magic user. With tears welling in his eyes, the boy proudly tells her that he didn't cry while she was gone. Yura looks down at him, her expression softening. She pulls her brother into a tight embrace, wiping away his tears. She promises him that from now on, they will always be together. This was her singular purpose. It was for him that she had learned to wield this power. Her desperate wish to protect her brother was met not with triumph, but with cataclysm. A violent eruption tore through the mountain, spewing rock and ash across the sky in a terrifying display of raw power. The eruption sent debris raining down upon the village, and its people could only stare in abject terror at the destruction of their home. In the devastating aftermath, she found her brother, Asa, grievously wounded and wrapped from head to toe in bandages. Crying out his name, Yoru desperately promised him that it would be all right, that her magic would heal him in an instant. She desperately tried to channel her healing magic, but it was not nearly enough. The village elder, the great crone, admonished her, stating that the miraculous healing capable of reviving the dead was a divine art permitted only to the saint. Yoru could only grit her teeth in helpless frustration. Her failure drew the villagers' ire. They accused her of bringing the mountain god's wrath upon them by using magic that defied nature. They blamed her for the destruction of the village and for Ace's condition. She screamed back, questioning their definitions of God and nature. She declared that she had learned magic not to rely on such things, but to survive. The villagers retorted, challenging her to save them with her magic, as they were all dying. The elder noted that what was needed was holy power, Amid the conflict, the great crone mentioned that she had heard a pilgrimage led by the saint was due to arrive at the foot of the mountain. She considered that the saint's power might be enough to save both Asa and the village. The elder's words struck Yoru like lightning. A new, wild hope ignited within her. The saint, and so, she watched as a procession of figures made their way across the desolate landscape, heading towards the still smoking mountain. She raced down the mountain to intercept them, falling to her knees before the armored knights of the holy pilgrimage, her voice cracking as she begged for their help. She prostrates herself, her voice cracking with desperation as she begs them to lend her the saint's divine power. Her plea continues, explaining that her brother and her entire village are on the verge of death. As one of the armored knights listens, a hooded figure in their party coldly questions what this insolent person wants, appearing before them so suddenly. In response to the commotion, a man with long, light hair and a sadistic smile gives a chilling command. Kill the girl. He declares her an insolent wretch for trying to sway the saint with personal feelings, condemning her people as heretics who worship the mountain instead of the goddess. He proclaims their impending death is simply their fate and the goddess's will. Stunned into silence, Yoru's shock turns to fury. She realizes this is their idea of compassion, before roaring that the saint is meant to be a guide for the lost as she smashes her fist into the ground, shattering the earth beneath it.